The Natsume clan was once an ancient and powerful bloodline, but years of conflict have left only 3 members alive. Among them is Naruto, an orphan who has no idea just how deep his connection to the clan runs. Now, his journey begins with the Ryugen, the Dragon Eye, a mysterious dojutsu said to see what no ordinary eyes can. And Naruto is about to discover exactly what those eyes are capable of. Chapter 4. 2 blades clashed loudly in a field. A much older Naruto pushed forward before jumping back. He growled as he looked at the person in front of him. For some reason, he couldn't tell who the person was. He couldn't see the person's face or even the person's gender. Naruto panted hard before the person dashed at him. He ran at the person as well, ready to finish it. They rushed at each other, and in a flash they both appeared behind each other, their backs turned. Naruto looked back as the person turned. Naruto could see the person's mouth as blood exploded from 3 wounds on Naruto's chest. He fell to his knees slowly. A sinister smile came on the person's face as Naruto glared at hard as he could in his state. Naruto panted hard before falling face first on the ground as the person walked in front of him. The person raised the blade before plunging it into Naruto's back. Naruto suddenly opened his one eye with fear written all over his face. He sat up shaking, his pupil in a narrowed slit, glowing red. He panted as he looked down at the blankets. After a few seconds, he looked up with his vision blurry. Damn it, he thought, trying to stand only to fall back on his butt. Relax. Only a dream, or whatever, he thought, moving his hand to his head. After a few minutes, his breathing calmed down and he took a good look at the room. Where am I? He thought. He stood up, noticing that his chest and shoulder is covered with bandages and his left side of his face is also covered. He blinked before unwrapping the bandages around his face. That's better, he thought after he finished. He blinked a few times as he looked around. He noticed his bag near the closet and moved over to it. He quickly opened it and took out a pair of black pants and a red shirt. He quickly put them on before picking up his katana that was next to the bag. He looked around the room as the door opened. Naruto put a genjutsu over his eyes quickly before turning to the door. Maya blinked as she looked at Naruto. What are you doing up? You need to heal, Maya said. Naruto smiled at her before stretching. I'm fine. Everything is healed, Naruto said. Humph. She let out, closing the door. Take off your shirt, Maya said. Maya-chan, I know how you feel and everything, but we are simply too young, Naruto said with a shocked expression. Maybe in a few, ow, he let out as he was punched. You goddamn idiot. You know what I mean by it, Maya yelled, glaring at him with a blush. Okay, just joking, Naruto said, rubbing his cheek. Naruto quickly took off his shirt and tossed it over to the futon. Maya took a good look at Naruto's clean bandages and sighed. At least his wounds didn't reopen, she thought. Naruto raised his arms up as Maya moved closer to him. Maya shook her head as she started to unwrap his bandages. She let the bandages pool at his feet as she slowly took it off. Naruto looked into her eyes, blushing as she looked down at his bandages. Relax, he thought as his heart pounded. After she was done, she examined Naruto's body. She touched his chest, tracing his healing slash mark going from his shin down to his waist. She moved her finger to his shoulder where he was cut when Zabuza appeared. She traced over the middle of his chest before going to his ribs. Hearing him laugh a little, she shook her head. Sternum seems to be okay, so does your ribs. The wounds on your chest and shoulder are healing very fast as normal, Maya said, looking at his face, then tracking the line from above his left eye to his cheek where he was cut. The wound on your face is completely healed, Maya said before crouching down and lifting up his left pants leg. She looked at the now red bandages wrapped around his thigh. She quickly removed them to see no marks on him. Your leg is healed, Maya said before letting it go and standing up. It took only a half a day, but you should still take it easy. The wounds on your chest could still reopen. They aren't closed all the way, Maya said, reapplying the bandages around his chest. Don't worry about it. So where's everyone? Naruto asked. Anko-sensei is watching Tazuna. Team 7 is still downstairs, I think. I'm supposed to make sure you rest fully, Maya said, moving back from him. Naruto smiled at her as he grabbed his shirt. But I don't want to rest, Naruto whined. I need to train, Naruto said. Maya looked at him and shook her head. Ha! It's also a part of your training to foster up the courage to rest your body, Maya said, getting closer to him again. Naruto blinked as she pressed her head to his. You are still pretty beat up. Just give your wounds time to heal, Maya said. Her head glowed lightly with her chakra as she closed her eyes. Naruto blushed before he quickly backed away blushing. Well, what are you doing? He asked quickly. Maya blinked confused before leaning back. It's a method of speeding up your cell regeneration. My mother taught it to me, Maya said. I thought for a moment she was going to kiss me, he thought as his heart pounded furiously in his chest. Naruto nodded, not trusting his voice. Naruto started to put back on his shirt as Maya frowned. Wait, she said. Naruto stopped and looked at her as she went over to her bag in the corner. She opened it and dug inside. Naruto watched as she pulled out a chainmail shirt. What's? Naruto stopped as she turned around and moved towards him. No questions. Just put it on, Maya said. Naruto blinked and looked at it. But that's yours, Naruto said. I have more than one. Now put it on, she said, forcing it into Naruto's arms. Naruto looked at it before dropping his shirt and putting the chainmail shirt on. Why you didn't wear one before I don't know, Maya said. I don't like how they feel, Naruto said. Still they will help defend against slashes and stab attacks, Maya said. Right, but with sharper weapons and chakra they can cut right through, Naruto said. But if you add chakra to it you can block them, Maya said. Naruto smiled at her, picking up his shirt. But, all right, Naruto said, sighing. Let's get you something to eat, Maya said. All right, Naruto said as she opened the door and walked out the room. Naruto followed after her, grabbing his katana on the way. So this is Tezuna's house? Naruto asked, walking down the hall to the stair. Yeah, we came after Kakashi finished the fight with Zabuza, Maya said. Naruto narrowed his eyes with a sigh. Stupid emo bitch interfering with my battle. When I see him I'm going to fuck him up, Naruto mumbled. Good luck with that, Maya said, looking at him. She looked forward as they reached the living room. Tsunami stopped seeing them enter and smiled. Hello. It seems that you are. Tsunami stopped, looking down at Naruto, who had just grabbed her hand. Maya blinked before looking behind her, surprised. He moved so fast, she thought. My beautiful star. How wonderful it is that you are here to brighten my day, Naruto said before kissing her hand. Tsunami blinked, staring at him. Tsunami started. Please, my sweet. May I be graced with your name? Naruto asked. Tsunami blinked again as she blushed a little. Tsunami, she said. Ah, Tsunami-chan. What a beautiful name that belongs to the beautiful woman whom sweeps my heart away, Naruto said, smiling. Hee. Naruto-san, I think I'm a little too old for you, Tsunami said. Tsunami-chan, please don't play with my heart. You can't be older than 17, Naruto said. Maya's eyes twitched before she had enough. Before Tsunami could answer, she grabbed Naruto by his ear and dragged him towards the door. Ow, 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 he let out as he was pulled. Sorry about him. Did Team 7 leave already? She asked, opening the door. Yes, a few minutes ago, Tsunami said. Maya nodded before pulling Naruto out the door. Tsunami blinked before looking at her hands. Do I really look that young? She thought. What is wrong with you, Naruto? Do you just flirt with every female you see? Maya asked angrily. No. Just the cute ones? And I thought we were getting something to eat? Naruto said. Humph. Maya let out, throwing back an apple she seemingly got from nowhere. Naruto smiled as he caught it. Don't tell me you're jealous. Oh, and thanks, Naruto said. Oh, please, Maya said. Who could be jealous over you? She asked. Naruto's head dropped as he let out a low sigh. I was hoping you, he whispered. HN, you say something? She asked. Nope, nothing at all, Naruto said, smiling just before taking a bite of the apple. He got out of her grip and stood up before walking behind her. So where are we going? Naruto asked. We are going to find a nice place for me to train, Maya said, leading him into the forest. Yes, we are going to train, Naruto shouted in joy, following her. No, I'm training, you're resting, Maya said. But Maya-chan, Naruto whined. Stop being a baby, Maya said. But if I don't train I won't get any stronger, Naruto said. If you keep training without resting, then your body will never recover, thus weakening you. Maya explained. Naruto blinked and stared at her. That I know, but I don't think that would apply to me, Naruto said. And why is that? Maya asked. You know why, Naruto said. Maya blinked before looking at him, then his stomach. Even so, some of your wounds will take longer to heal and they could get worse, Maya said. If you say so, Naruto said. So what happened after I fainted? Naruto asked. Kakashi attacked Zabuza and using his Sharingan he defeated him. Just when he was about to kill him, he was hit with needles in his neck. Maya explained, looking forward. Kakashi checked him saying he was dead and the hunter Nin who did it took his body and left. Maya said. Well damn, I wanted to kill him. I actually thought the hunter ninja was helping him, Naruto said, looking up. You knew? Maya asked, looking at him suspiciously. Yeah, I saw the needles hit the shuriken, Naruto said. Maya blinked at him. Anyway, when Kakashi woke up, he confirmed my suspicions, Maya said. Your suspicions? Naruto asked. Yeah, my uncle was a hunter ninja. So he taught both me and Aya something, Maya said. Yeah, but what were your suspicions? Cyclops checked him. So he's dead, right? Naruto asked. That's the thing. Needles have a very low killing rate. Only when they hit a vital area will they kill. Somebody proficient with them can do a lot. Hunter Nins know the body structure thoroughly, so it would be easy for them to put him in a death state, Maya said. Naruto blinked before rubbing his head. You know you're very smart, Naruto said. Thanks, Maya replied. But we can't just say that. He could really be bloodthirsty, It's possible that he wanted him alive for. Naruto started. I doubt it, Maya said. But even if it's true, we can't deny the possibility that Zabuza could be alive, Maya said. Naruto nodded before smiling. I get a second chance at him, Naruto said, smirking evilly. I don't think so, Maya said. Kakashi or Anko-sensei might decide to take him, Maya said. Naruto huffed as they walked for about 5 minutes before coming to an area where a pond was. Maya looked around before smiling. This place will do fine, Maya said. Fine indeed, Naruto said, smiling. Nice try, just sit by the tree, Maya said, pointing to one on her right. But Maya-chan, I can't just watch you train, Naruto whined again. Maya blinked at him. Fine, then do some non-strenuous exercise, Maya said. Like what? Naruto asked. I got it, Maya said. Follow me, Maya said before walking towards the water. Naruto looked at her before following her. He noticed that she was charging chakra to her feet and did the same. She stepped on the surface of the water as Naruto did the same. He followed her to the middle of it and stopped as she turned to him. All right, sit, Maya said. Naruto blinked again and sat down with his legs crossed. Maya sat down also in the same position right after him. Okay, so what are we going to do? Naruto asked. You remember when father was teaching us how to manipulate water for mother's water jutsu? The push and pull effect, Maya asked. Yeah, but... Oh, okay. But we already did it, Naruto said. So, we can make a contest out of it. If you win, I'll let you train, and if lose, you lay over there and do nothing. We'll only do the push effect, Maya said. Naruto smiled at her before placing his forehead protector back on. You're on, Naruto said. Maya smiled before placing her hands on the water. Naruto did the same before adding chakra to his hands. 10 feet tall, Naruto said. All right, the first to run out loses, Maya said. Naruto nodded and got ready. 1, he said. 2, Maya replied. 3, the both said, pushing chakra into the water. 10 towers of water rose up surrounding them. Maya stared at Naruto's forehead protector and focused on her hand. You know, Maya-chan, my chakra stores are larger than yours, Naruto said, smiling. Yes. But you have to concentrate more also, Maya said, smirking. So, he said. Team 7. Okay, now I'm going to teach you a way to control the most important thing a ninja has. Their chakra, Kakashi said. Okay, but how? Sakura asked. Chakra is the most important weapon to a shinobi. If you can control it, you won't use more chakra than you need to for jutsus and such. If you can learn this, you'll be all the better at using jutsu and techniques that require chakra, Kakashi said as he walked up to a tree and he stopped at the tree and closed his visible eye, and dirt swirled around his feet and he put one foot on the tree and then the other and began to effortlessly walk up the tree. The copy found his way to the bottom of a branch and looked down at them as he hung upside down. Focusing chakra at the bottom of your feet is the hardest place to focus it. If you can get this down, I'll teach you an even better way to control your chakra and jutsu, he said. Now, you try, but take a running start. Kakashi threw 3 kunai down into the ground in front of them. Use those to cut the trunk at your highest point and try to beat it the next time, and then so on and so forth, he instructed. Sakura grabbed a kunai and made a hand seal. They channeled chakra into their feet and sprinted towards the tree. Sasuke ran up about 10 steps and on the last one his foot created a foot-shaped dent in the bark in the tree, and he slashed a mark before flipping down and landing. I didn't know maintaining a constant amount of chakra would be this hard. If I use too much chakra I get repelled, and most likely if I use too little I won't stick to it, Sasuke thought. This is easier than I thought, Sakura said. Sasuke? Aya and Kakashi looked toward her as she sat on a high branch. Just as I thought. She does have low chakra capability. But what about? Kakashi looked at Aya. Wood was looking up and the tree. Aya-chan, why don't you try? Kakashi said. Kakashi-sensei, I already learned this, Aya said. Kakashi blinked and stared at her. Show me, he said. Aya nodded before making a quick seal. She charged chakra to the soles of her feet before walking towards the tree. She placed on foot on the tree just when she reached it and started walking up the tree. She walked up as high as Sakura was before walking on the bottom of a branch. I see, Kakashi thought. All right, he said before looking at Sasuke. It seems like you are the only one here who isn't able to make it. It seems that the Natsume clan is more talented, Kakashi said. Sasuke glared at him before glaring at Aya and Sakura. Kakashi-sensei, shut up, Sakura yelled. She's loud, Aya thought. In a wooden fortress. In a cone-shaped house in the middle of the forest, Zabuza was laying and resting in his bed with a blanket over him. A boy with black hair tied in a bun is sitting in a chair next to the bed. He is wearing a striped turtleneck and pants. He has on a blue robe over his turtleneck. He has brown eyes and looked to be 14. He looked over Zabuza, who was looking at the ceiling. He heard the door open and hearing 3 people walk inside the room. Gatu is in the middle of his 2 bodyguards. On his left was a man with an eye patch over his right eye. He has no shirt on and has tattoos on both arms. He has a kimono on and the top is rolled downward to his waist. He is gripping his katana with his right hand. The man on his left is wearing a coat and black shorts. He has long whitish hair and has a black hat on. He has a katana strapped to his left side. So even you have come back defeated. It looks like Mist Country ninjas are pretty pathetic, Gata said. You can't even avenge your men? And you call yourself the devil? Don't make me laugh, he added, walking closer. Both of his bodyguards moved in front of him, ready to draw their swords. An attack, the boy thought. One started to unsheath his blade but was stopped by Gatu. Hold on a second, he said, moving towards Zabuza. Hey, there's no need to stay silent, he said, reaching for Zabuza's neck. Zabuza looked at him with a glare as his hand came closer. How about? He started as a hand gripped his wrist. Gatu turned towards the boy and looked into his cold eyes. Don't touch Zabuza-san with your dirty hands, he said angrily. Gu you, he said, trying to move back. His 2 bodyguards started to draw their blades, drawing the boy's attention towards them. He appeared in the middle of them with their katana towards both of their necks. No way, moved in an instant, the one with the black cap said. You shouldn't do that, I'm pissed off right now, he said with colder eyes. One more time. If you fail one more time you won't be welcome here anymore. Remember that, Gata said before rushing out with his bodyguards. Haku, you didn't have to do that, Zabuza said, lifting you the blanket so he could see the kunai. I agree. I wouldn't be the one to kill, a voice said. The Konoha missing Nin appeared from the shadows with a smirk. I know, but it's too early to kill Gatu. If we caused a commotion they will be after us again. We must be patient, Haku said. Yeah, Zabuza said. I guess, the missing Nin said. His eyes turned cold as he looked at them. So how long are you going to be in bed? I have my mission and my mission rests on your mission, he said. About a week, Haku said. HN, that's good, he said before disappearing. I don't trust him, Haku said with darkening eyes. We will use him either way, Zabuza said. Naruto and Maya. Both Naruto and Maya panted as they maintained their focus. 2 water towers remained behind Naruto, shrinking fast as 2.5 towers remained behind Maya. The half one was slowly decreasing in size as she panted. She smirked as Naruto struggled to keep his towers up. What did I tell you? Maya asked, panting. Naruto growled before clenching his teeth tight. Hiya, he yet out, pouring more chakra into the water. His water towers stopped shrinking as he sweated. Don't underestimate me, he left out before falling forward into the water. Maya blinked before stopping her chakra flow and rushing towards Naruto as he sank. She grabbed him quickly and turned him around. Hey, what are? She stopped, noticing that the water towers were still up. She looked down at Naruto just as he smiled. I win, he said, panting. Maya's eyebrow twitched before she sighed. Sure, but you cheated, Maya panted out before pulling him from the water. So? You do it all the time, Naruto said as the water towers fell. Sure I do, she said sarcastically. Can you stand? She asked. Naruto turned his head toward her before placing his feet on the water. He managed to stand on it, sinking a little. I probably should rest, Naruto said. He moved forward as Maya let go of him. That's what I was saying earlier, Maya said, following after him. Naruto wobbled a little after he got to the land. He quickly moved over to a tree and sat down, leaning back on the tree. Maya shook her head before sitting down next to him. She took a deep breath before leaning against Naruto. She thought before falling asleep. Maya's eyes snapped open as she and Naruto suddenly moved to action. Naruto drew his sword from his seated position while Maya moved up for a kick. The person in front of them smirked, quickly pulling out a kunai to block Naruto's katana and blocked Maya's kick. Well, at least you two are light sleepers, a feminine voice rang out. Maya blinked, looking at the woman and sighed. Anko-sensei, what are you doing here? She asked, moving her foot back, catching herself. Naruto moved his blade and sheathed it before yawning loudly. The question is, what are you still doing here? Anko asked. Maya tilted her head, confused, before noticing it was dark out. What time is it? She asked. About 8, Anko said before looking at Naruto. Why aren't you back at the house? She asked. Because I'm fine, and now I'm hungry, Naruto said, standing up. So then tomorrow I will not show you any slack, Anko said. That's good, he replied as Maya stood and stretched out. She yawned before looking at Anko. We should get moving, Maya said. Says the one who was taking a cat nap, Anko said. Maya ignored her before starting to walk. Naruto walked after her, pulling up his forehead protector. He yawned as Anko walked after them. My chakra is back at least. My wounds should be nearly healed by now, Naruto thought. We're taking to the trees, Anko said before jumping up. Maya and Naruto jumped up also and leap across the trees. Naruto's hand went across his chest, feeling jolts of pain every time he landed. 5 minutes later, they landed in front of Tazuna's house. Maya and Anko landed first while Naruto landed after them. He fixed his shirt as Maya walked towards the house. Naruto walked after her, shaking his head before rubbing his eyes. Anko reached out, grabbing both of them. She pulled them back and leaned over. Maya and Naruto looked at her as she took a serious expression. Listen carefully. Tomorrow morning we are going to start our true mission. You are to eat fully and wake up at 4. You are to meet me where you were sleeping at. If you are any later than 4:30, then there will be hell to play. I will teach you guys the truth art of assassination. And this will be the only time, Anko whispered. They both nodded and Anko let Maya go. Maya started to walk and stopped, noticing she was the only one. Go ahead, Maya. I want to speak with Naruto alone, Anko said. All right, Maya said before walking ahead. Everyone should be in the dining room, Anko said. Maya nodded just as she reached the door. Once she was inside, Anko glared hard at Naruto. So tell me, what convinced you to fight Zabuza? She asked. Well, Kakashi was caught and you fought him alone, Anko said. He is a swordsman. What can you expect from me? When somebody has a sword, it is only right to fight one-on-one, Naruto said. What are you, a samurai or a ninja? Anko asked. A ninja swordsman, Naruto said after a long pause. Anko blinked at him before cracking a smile. Sure, Naruchan. But remember, you are a ninja foremost. The mission comes first, even if you have to swallow your honor to get the job done. So no more of that, or I will hurt you, Anko said. Naruto sighed before nodding. Good. And you did a great job, she said, patting his head. Who would have thought you was skilled enough to fight a jounin with a sword evenly? Anko said, smiling. Naruto blushed at the praise as Anko walked around him and towards the house. Naruto walked after her, smiling brightly. They got into the house and walked into the dining room. Ah, Naruto-kun, you're back, Tsunami said. Everyone turned to Naruto and Anko. Aya jumped up upon seeing Naruto and dashed at him, stopping right in front of him before look at different areas of his body and quickly switching. Are you all right? Are your wounds fully healed? Did they reopen? Any new ones? I asked very quickly. Aya-chan, I'm fine, Naruto said, quickly stopping her. Just relax, Naruto said. He looked around, seeing Maya shaking her head. He saw Kakashi on the opposite side of the table next to Sasuke. His eyes zoned in on Sasuke before he took on a thoughtful look. HN, Naruto let out. What's wrong? I asked. I don't know, Naruto said before walking over to the other side of the table near Sasuke. It on the tip of my tongue, but I can't seem to get it, Naruto said before sitting down on Sasuke's left. Oh God, Maya said before placing her hand on her head. Maybe it wasn't important, Kakashi said. No, I'm fairly certain it is. You know what I remember now, Naruto said. Then what was it? Sakura asked as he looked at Sasuke. He smirked as he clutched his fist tightly before relaxing completely. You're alive, he said. Everything became deathly silent as they stared at him. Wah? Ack! Sasuke let out as he was caught with a hook. He flew back towards the wall as Naruto got up quickly. Sasuke-kun! Sakura yelled out as he hit the wall, cracking it. Naruto spun once before bringing his foot around. Sasuke looked at Naruto a second before his foot hit his cheek. He was sent towards the door as Anko opened the door. Sasuke flew outside as Naruto ran after him. Everyone stood in shock. You think Naruto really is going to kill him? I asked. Yeah, Maya said before jumping up and running out. Aya and Sakura ran after her as Kakashi stood up as quickly as he could. He took his crunches and stood up. Anko, on the other hand, smiled as she walked out and sat down on the porch. Sasuke shook his head and he stood up. Blood trickled down his chin as Naruto stopped with a glare. I'll kill you, Sasuke said. Achin. Come try, bitch, Naruto growled out. Sasuke crouched down before quickly drawing and throwing shuriken at Naruto. Naruto narrowed his eyes before waving his hand just as the shuriken reached him. He smacked them away, easily confusing Sasuke. He growled before dashing at Naruto. He reached him quickly, throwing a right hook. Naruto leaned back, dodging it, and lifted his hand up as a jab came at him. Naruto caught his hand before jumping up and kicking him in his chest. He let go of his hand as Sasuke was forced back. He landed and smiled before dashing at Sasuke. Naruto! Stop! Aya yelled out as Naruto jumped up, spinning. Sasuke ducked under his kick and threw a punch just as Naruto landed. Naruto crouched down, dodging it. Oh, it's fine. Let them fight, Anko said. I don't think this is a good idea, Maya said as Sasuke was kicked back. Yes, it is, Anko said, giving Maya a serious stare. Sasuke-kun! Sakura yelled out. Sasuke growled and did a few hand seals. Naruto raised an eyebrow with a frown. Sasuke! Kakashi shouted. That's not a good idea, emo bitch, Naruto growled. Katan. Gukakyu no jutsu, Sasuke thought, exhaling a fireball. Naruto's growled out as he did a set of hand seals. Naruto! Aya shouted as the fireball engulfed him. I wonder why he didn't. Anko stopped and looked back. Oh, okay, she said. Sasuke smirked, watching the flames. His smirk turned to a frown as the flames blown outward. Naruto stood there with his legs spread and bent slightly, only his shirt had a few burn marks on it. Wind circled around him as his hands are in a dragon seal. Bastard! Naruto growled. Anko narrowed her eyes at him. That amount of chakra, Anko thought. This jutsu is he, Maya said, causing Anko to look at her. Maya, stop him, Anko said. Maya was already up by the time Anko said something and quickly dashed at Naruto. Futon, go! Naruto stopped, closing his eyes, wincing as a jolt of pain went through his chest. Blood stained his bandages as he opened his eyes, more wind spiraling around his arm. Ha! Naruto let out as his right arm was grabbed. He didn't have time to look to his side as he was flipped. Naruto landed hard on his back and looked up as his chakra and wind dissipated. What the hell do you think you are doing? Maya asked angrily with a glare. What does it look like? He asked with a glare. He tried to sit up only to have Maya's foot planted on his chest. She pushed him down and glared at him as he tried to ignore the pain. I need to look up who trained him, Anko thought. Sasuke, Kakashi said, narrowing his one eye at him. Sasuke let out, looking back defiantly. He walked back into the house, wiping his chin, with Sakura following after him. Kakashi looked towards Anko, who was staring at Maya, who had straddled Naruto's chest and was using her knees to stop him from moving his arms. Anko, control your student, Kakashi said. Maybe you should control yours. After all, it was his fault my student ended up the way he did, Anko said, turning to him with a glare. Kakashi turned from her and headed into the house. Anko looked at Aya, who was staring hard at the two of them. You idiot! What were you trying to do? Kill Sasuke? Maya asked lowly. Well, yes, that was the plan, Naruto said. Maya flicked his nose hard, causing him to glare at her. Listen up. You are not to do anything else stupid on this mission. I will be ticked if something goes wrong and we are forced to do some chores around the village, Maya said. Do you understand? Maya asked. Define stupid, Naruto said. Anything that I don't give the okay on, Maya said. Yeah. But you are known to do stupid stuff as well, Naruto said. Maya stared at him before bouncing on his chest. Ow! What the hell, that hurts, Naruto growled. What do you know? Your wounds reopened, Maya said innocently. Good, now that you know. Can you get off of me? Naruto asked, glaring. I don't know. Can I? Maya asked, bouncing again. Ow! Stop that, Naruto let out. What, I'm not doing anything, Maya said with an innocent expression. Naruto looked at her and would have said cute if he wasn't in so much pain. Maya blinked as she was suddenly pulled off of Naruto. Maya, you'll make his wounds worse, Aya said, smiling. Yeah, Naruto said. Fine, Maya said, standing. She moved to the side as Naruto sat up. He winced and quickly moved his arms to his chest. Shit. I didn't think using that much chakra would reopen them, Naruto said. Of course it would reopen, Maya said as Aya helped him stand. I didn't use that much chakra, just enough to make sure that he died, Naruto said. Both Maya and Aya looked at him as Anko walked up. At least you know that when you start a fight you finish it with their death, Anko said. Now come on so you can eat and go to sleep, Anko said. Naruto frowned, looking at a distance house with a pair of binoculars. It was large. Well, not as large as Hinata-chan's and Maya-chan's house or land, but it saw still pretty big. There is a small pond to the left of the house surrounded by flowers with a small bridge over it. There is a forest towards the back of the residence. There is about 5 small buildings surrounding it. There is a perimeter wall sounding the land and forest behind it. The house he was looking at looked to have 2 floors. The windows are covered up, keeping onlookers from seeing inside. On the ground are boardwalks that lead from the entrance and side entrances to the other houses. He frowned deepened, taking a notice of all the samurai posted all over the area. This place is heavily guarded, Maya whispered out. Naruto nodded in agreement, taking a notice of most of the samurai. A lot of them. Naruto stopped scanning everyone that he could see. My mistake. All of them don't seem that experienced to me, Naruto said. Don't judge them by their looks, Anko said quickly. Okay, but it's hard not to, Naruto replied. Maybe that's what Zabuza thought when he fought you, she replied, giving him a look. He could hear Maya's snickering but ignored her. Maybe you're right, Naruto said. He heard shuffling to his right and his right eye began to twitch. So how many are there? She asked. Naruto looked over the house, taking account of all the samurai. About 29, Naruto said. Maya, Anko said, inspecting something. I counted 39, Maya said after a few seconds. Anko reached over and grabbed the binoculars from Naruto and put them to her eyes. She took a quick scan of the area before looking at Naruto. Both of you are wrong. Count again. Anko ordered, tossing them back at him. He caught them easily and frowned. Both of them scanned the area again, slowly counting each person. After a minute passed, Naruto looked toward Anko. 42. Maya said as Naruto opened his mouth. He closed it, finding no reason to say anything. Correct. You both have to be faster when you do it. You must be able to get an accurate number in the shortest amount of time. Sometimes you might not have a minute. Anko said. Misinformation can lead to the death of your comrades. Anko said. Understood. They both said, looking back at the house. Naruto blinked, resisting the urge to look as more ruffling caught his attention. Question. Naruto let out. Why are you digging through my bag? Naruto asked, looking back at her. Anko grinned at him, her hand inside his bag. Well, a pair of my panties disappeared, and since you are a pervert, I figured that you might have it in your bag, she said happily. At this, Maya turned from surveying the house to look at Naruto. Naruto saw her look before ignored it, looking at the snake ninja. So, your panties go missing and I'm the one who did it? Naruto asked. I don't know, probably. It happened before, Anko said. Oh, come on. I told you that was an accident, Naruto said, looking forward. Aha, you got some cute boxers, Anko said. Naruto blinked, hearing Maya shift quickly. He turned to look at her again, a blush gracing his face. I wasn't expecting chibi frogs and chibi dragons, Anko said, snickering. Humph, Naruto let out, not doing anything. There are better ways to find out the type of boxers I wear, Naruto said, mumbled. Oh, Anko replied. Yeah. One would be peeking on me while I'm changing, Naruto said, grinning. Maya's eyes switched to him with a slight twitch. Anko grinned at him, chuckling. That's so juvenile. I prefer getting a look when I'm undressing you, Anko said, licking her lips. Naruto's grin turned into a surprised expression as he stared at her. Blood leaked from his nose as his imagination went wild. Naruto shook his head quickly, trying to get the imagines out of his head. She chuckled, already guessing what went through his mind. You win this time, Hibi-chan, Naruto said, his eyes narrowed a little. Ha! Now it's 103 to 26, Anko said happily. Maya shook her head, looking forward. I'm surrounded by perverts, she muttered. Now, Anko said, ignoring her and pointing back to the house, and Naruto nodded. He looked through the binoculars once again, watching the Ronin's movements. As he scanned over the area, he took notice of the front of the large house. The shoji door slowly slid open and two men walked out, followed by 4 Ronin. His eyes narrowed, zoning in on the taller of the 2 men. That's... Naruto left his sentence unfinished as he stared at the missing ninja from Konoha. Maya gritted her teeth, squeezing the binoculars hard. Anko looked at him, hearing him speak. She moved the bag to the side and turned, lying down on her stomach. She drew a pair of binoculars from nowhere before peering into them. Her eyes narrowed as her eyes landed on him. I see. Seiki is here, she said. She moved her left hand from the binoculars and placed it on Naruto's head. He jumped a little and looked at her. Yeah, he let out. Anko didn't reply, but the notion was not lost to him. He looked back into the binoculars, signing a little. I wasn't going to do anything, he muttered. Anko stayed silent, already expecting such a response. She didn't remove her hand and glanced at Maya. She wasn't really sure how she would react to him. But from looking at her, she could already tell she wouldn't rush in like Naruto would do. Can either of you two read lips? She asked. Naruto stared, watching Seiki walk out toward the front gate, followed by who he assumed was the ninja's employer and his bodyguards. Naruto opened his mouth, ready to say no, but stopped as a thought entered his mind. I can a little, but I've been out of practice for a few years, Maya said. Anko nodded before looking at Naruto. Yeah, I can read lips, he answered. Anko nodded and looked ahead. Maya took the chance to look at Naruto weirdly. Since when? She asked. Since a while ago, Naruto said, slightly moving his feet. She noticed it quickly. It was one of the signs that he was lying. She would ask later when they weren't around Anko-sensei. Okay, I want you to pay close attention to their mouths and read what they say, she said. Naruto nodded as Maya put her eyes back to the binoculars. He quickly made up his mind and gathered chakra into his eyes. He took a deep breath, feeling the change in his pupils. He stared at Seiki, focusing on him, and a close-up image appeared before his eyes of the scene below. Seiki stopped and turned to his employer. "So you want me to use my money to hire more ninja, huh?" The voice of the middle-aged businessman entered Naruto's ears. Naruto narrowed his eyes a little, figuring this was a continuation of another conversation. "Speak what you can read," Enko commanded. Naruto nodded and listened. "Yes, your chances of survival would increase tenfold." That time it was Seiki. Naruto repeated the words and Enko nodded. "Oh, I thought you were enough to protect me," the man said. "I was at the time, but the circumstances have changed," Seiki said. "What has changed?" he said. "The plan is a simple one. We are." The plan was set with the expectation that Tazuna would only get one team to protect him. The fact that he has two means something different, Seiki said, interrupting his employer. "What is that?" he replied. "That you sold some drugs to somebody in Konoha, and they sent somebody to kill you, of course," he said, looking back at him. Naruto repeated all of it, staring at Seiki, not realizing Enko was staring at him. "You're pretty good at this," she said. Naruto nodded, losing concentration. He looked at Enko, hoping his genjutsu he placed much earlier was still on. "Who taught you?" she asked. I taught myself." That too was a lie. Enko stared at him, detecting a hint of a lie by his tone. She narrowed her eyes a little but said nothing about it. "You must have had a lot of practice to be able to repeat it so perfectly," Enko said, looking back into the binoculars, letting her hand fall from his head. Naruto blinked a couple of times before looking back at Seiki. "You can say that," Naruto mumbled. He gathered chakra into his eyes once again and concentrated on Seiki. "Wow, what?" the businessman let out. "What did I miss?" Naruto thought. "I don't work for idiots and I won't die meaninglessly. Protecting you from Gato isn't such a big thing. But protecting you from him, 2 jounin from Konoha and 5 brats? Yeah, that is something I wasn't paid for," Seiki said, turning and glaring at the man. But we had a deal," he nearly shouted, panicked. Naruto frowned a little, blinking a couple of times. He was feeling a slight burning sensation in his eyes. It was something he was used to. It was kind of a warning that he was overusing it. Problem being, he had only started using it. He fought the urge to close them and continued to watch. "So," Seiki said, "I'm a missing nin. I'm out for myself. I'm not going to die for some idiot who can't even figure out when he should listen to others," he said nonchalantly. Naruto repeated it perfectly before turning his head, moving the binoculars down. He grabbed the bridge of his nose and pinched it a couple of times, trying to soothe the burning sensation in his eyes and the oncoming headache. He didn't see Enko looking at him, using the binoculars as cover. She stayed silent, watching him as he put the binoculars back to his eyes. She noticed the beginning signs of exhaustion show on his face and frowned, wondering what kind of jutsu he was using. She began to reach over to him, only to stop as he started to speak again. Okay. Fine, I'll hire 2 more ninja," Naruto repeated. Enko blinked and frowned, looking back at the scene. "Shit," Maya let out. "It seems like our mission has just become a little more complicated," Enko said, smirking. "Let's get going. We have finished scouting for tonight," Enko said, reaching out and touching Naruto. He nodded as he turned his concentration to Enko. "Shouldn't we wait a little bit longer? There might be something else," Maya said. Naruto looked at her when something caught his attention. His eyes narrowed slightly as he gaze shifted slightly to the left of Maya. A quick set of imagines appeared before his eyes and he frowned deeply. Enko looked at her, putting her binoculars away. "There might be, but it's better not to push our luck for now. Plus, we know the information I got is correct and a little more to help us plan," she replied, glancing to the left of Maya. Maya nodded and got to her feet. Naruto looked at Maya before deciding to move over to his bag. He put his binoculars inside and closed his eyes. He closed his bag and moved his right hand up. He rubbed his eyes a little before reaching a little higher and grabbing his forehead protector. He missed the stare Enko gave him as he drew his metal-plated headband down over his eyes. Naruto sighed, almost as if a burden was lifted off of him, and grabbed the bag. He stood up and put it on his back before tilting his head towards Enko. Maya nodded at Enko walking forward. Enko turned away and leaped forward, casting a glance behind them. Maya followed quickly while Naruto turned his head back frowning. He turned his head forward and jumped after them, his hand near his kunai pouch. The shadows shifted in an alley near the mansion and a slight flash went off. Interesting. A low voice went out. I have to say, I didn't think they would notice us. Another voice went out. I agree. That just means this will be a little more fun than originally thought. The first voice let out. Humph. Still the same, I see. After 2 years you still are as obsessed with killing as you was before. The other male replied. That's what makes being a ninja worthwhile. The first ninja replied. Just remember the agreement. The second one said. Yeah. I won't kill you until after. The first one replied. I guess we should report to him now, right? Yeah. He should be on the roof in a few minutes. The other said. Both of them jumped up, kicking of the sides of the alley. They reached the roof to be presented with the sight of a bored Seiki. What took you? Seiki asked, looking at the two cloaked ninja. Sorry. We figured it would take a little bit for you to get here. The first one said, removing his hood. He is well over 5 feet tall, almost 1 head's length taller than Seiki. His skin is a light tan complexion. His face is angular, having a single 2-inch diagonal scar on his left cheek. His hair is black and short, going to the end of his neck. A few bangs of his hair covered his forehead and the engraving on his forehead protector. His eyes are almond-shaped, his green irises glimmering from the moonlight. And we took a look around. The other one replied, also taking off his hood. He is about 5 feet 5 inches. His skin is pale complexion. His face has a childish look about it. His face doesn't have any visible flaws on it. His hair is brown and lightly spiked. His forehead is covered by quite a few bangs of hair. His eyes are also almond-shaped and his irises are a grayish blue. What did you two find then? Seiki asked. Just a few spying eyes. The first said. I had a feeling I was being watched. Seiki said. Jinsuke-san. Those 3, what do you think about them? He asked. The brown-haired man blinked, looking at his comrade. You know who they are? The man known as Jinsuke asked. Seiki nodded, shifting a little. Jinsuke noticed it and decided to answer the question. The woman seemed like she might be dangerous. I would keep an eye on her. He started off. The boy and the girl just seemed to be newbies to the ninja life to me. Ranmura, Seiki said, looking at the other young man. He looked at him, a smile childishly. Well, the woman seemed like she might be trouble, Ranmura said, grinning. But the boy, he was hiding something. He said, his tone changing to a dark one. Oh, Seiki asked, clearly confused. What could little Naru have learned during these 5 years? He asked. Ranmura shrugged, giving a wide smile. Dunno, he said nonchalantly. But it will be interesting to find out, he said. Seiki shook his head at him. Even he had to admit, the ninja he hangs out with are weird. Well, we'll find out soon, Seiki said. Come, I'll introduce you to the person you will be in charge of protecting for a while, Seiki said as he turned. Ah man, I wanted to kill a few people. Ranmura huffed as Jinsuke nodded in agreement. Seiki began to walk away, sighing a little. Too bloodthirsty, he thought. He smirked a second later. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It passed 10 minutes with everyone stuck in their own thoughts. Naruto tilted his head down before looking up. Hibi-chan, do you think we should be worried? Naruto asked. Anko looked back at Naruto with a slight frown. Worried about what? She asked. You know, the 2 shinobi that's going to be hired, Naruto said. Anko blinked in realization. Oh, yeah, that, Anko said, looking ahead. Of course we shouldn't. It shouldn't be too problematic, she said. Maya blinked, a little confused. Why shouldn't we? Maya asked. If he gets too jounin to help him, we might be in trouble, Maya said. I'll be able to handle them, she said quickly with a grin. I meant us, Maya said, pointing at herself and Naruto. Anko glanced at her with a grin. Well, from what I was told, Naru-chan can hold his own pretty well, she said. Maya's eyes twitched at the implication. Well, sorry, I'm not as lucky as Naruto, Maya said. Naruto tilted his head, confused. He raised his right hand and scratched his cheek. And how am I lucky? Naruto asked. Maya looked at him and raised an eyebrow. You were lucky enough to fight someone who made a lot of mistakes, Maya said, crossing her arms before nodding. Naruto titled his head again, almost as if he was trying to figure something out. Who did I fight who made a lot of mistakes? Naruto thought, scratching his cheek. Maya looked at him and signed lowly before shaking her head. Zabuza, Maya said, slightly annoyed. Naruto's mouth opened, forming an O before it shut quickly. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Naruto let out his head, snapping to her. He didn't make a lot of mistakes, Naruto said. Oh? Then how would you explain you leading the fight for almost the entirety of it? She asked. Maybe I'm just that good, Naruto said with a shrug. Aha! I need to stop Aya from lying to you, Maya said, rubbing her head. Oh? Why does she have to lie to me? Why can't I just be that good? Naruto asked, insulted. 1. I know she lies to you and you do too. And secondly, I just can't believe you can take on a jounin who is aiming to kill you, Maya said. Enko looked at Naruto, agreeing with Maya. The chances being very low without some mistakes made, but the jounin. He was good, better than probably most chunin. But an experienced jounin level ninja like Zabuza, she just couldn't see it. Well, not unless you had something like a hidden DOJUTSU, Maya said, looking ahead. Enko looked at her, agreeing again. If she would have never turned away from Naruto, she would have saw him jump at the mention of it. But we both know you don't have anything like that. Yeah. Naruto mumbled, slightly looking away. She didn't know only 3 people actually knew about his eyes, and Naruto would like to keep it that way. He didn't want her to worry about him too much. But what she said before caught him. Besides that, we both know you don't really have that much experience fighting people in a life or death situation, so the only possible conclusion anyone could come up with is a lot of mistakes, or that you are extremely lucky, Maya said. You know, I heard once that luck is also an important part of battle, Naruto said. Maya blinked and looked at him. She never heard of anything of the like, but she couldn't personally deny the fact, because she has gotten pretty lucky against Naruto at times. You shouldn't rely on luck in battles, Enko chimed in. She was using her teaching voice. Luck is good for some areas, but skill and ability will trump luck anytime. Naruto hummed a little. He wasn't really sure if it was true, but he understood what she was trying to say. He nodded in understanding. But he also knew that there was some things that was undeterminable in a battle, like the stability of the ground or trees around you. You just had to be lucky or lead them to a place you know. But sometimes that's impossible. But what if a large dragon was to swoop down and burn the field? Naruto asked. Maya blinked and looked at him, surprised. I doubt that would happen without somebody summoning it, Enko said. How about a tidal wave coming and engulfing the field? Naruto asked. Same answer, Enko said. What if a demon cat and dog are fighting and you happen to be in their way? Maya questioned. Enko glanced at her. Then you're fucked, Enko replied. What if a chicken was crossing your way and 10 ninja was hiding in the trees? How much luck would be needed in that situation? Naruto asked. Maya chuckled, lowly, thinking of her next question. Enko narrowed her eyes a little. Shut up, brat, Enko said. But what if something like that happens? How would I know how much luck I must exude to come out as the victor? Naruto whined. Enko glared at him hard. Yeah, and what if a snake leaps up at the moment when 10 kunai rain down on him? Should he save the snake? Maya said, grinning widely. Okay. No more question, Enko said. Yeah, but what about? I said no more question, she shouted angrily. Naruto shut his mouth and turned his head forward, smirking a little. Maya grinned at him, looking ahead as well. They just found a way to annoy her. Now they just needed an opening for revenge. Aya twisted, swinging her sword in a wide arc. She spun, following the momentum of her swing. After one complete rotation of her body, she stopped and looked out at the dark forest. She looked at the trees that surrounded her. She studied the fresh wounds that the trees would hold for some time. She inhaled deeply as beads of sweat slowly ran down her face. So that's one of the sword styles of the Natsume clan, huh? A voice from behind her let out. She jumped, slightly startled, before turning around quickly. She blinked, spotting Kakashi leaning on his crutches. He gave her a disarming smile, noticeable only because of his eye. Aya blinked a little, wondering just when he came. She gave a timid nod at Kakashi to answer his question. Pretty interesting. But I wonder why didn't you use that style against me? He said, slowly moving up to a tree to study the slash marks. Well, the style itself is incomplete. I have yet to master it. Plus the added techniques that I was just using needs to be refined. Aya said. Ah, I see. Kakashi said. He reached out, keeping the crutches underneath his arm. He touched the indents and narrowed his eyes a little. Interesting. The cut. It's deep but not a clean one. It's almost jagged, he thought. Is there a problem, sensei? I asked. The technique you was just using, it's similar to the one Naruto-san and Maya-san was using, huh? He asked. Aya blinked at the question before nodding. It was Naruto's suggestion that I add it to increase the range of my strikes, and Maya taught me the theory behind it. Aya explained. Ah, those two really do look out for you, Kakashi stated. How about I help as well? He asked. Aya blinked at him a little confused. After a few seconds she realized it was a question and blushed embarrassed. Oh, yes, I would appreciate any help you could give me, Aya said, bowing quickly. Kakashi smiled at her and began to walk over to her. He stopped where she was and looked at the tree. Okay, let's get started. I'm not really an expert in kenjutsu, but I'll help a little more with the technique, he said, slowly drawing a kunai that looked to be made of a different metal. Wait, how is he going to help me with the technique? He only seen it. Oh yeah, the Sharingan, she thought, watching him turn. From what I gather from the technique they used, they each mold their chakra in a different way. For me to explain it simply without knowing the theory behind it. I can explain it to you, Aya shot in quickly. Kakashi gave his famous I smile again before shaking his head. Nah, I feel Naruto would get mad that I know, he said. Aya nodded as Kakashi turned to the tree. You would need to alter the balance in your chakra during each swing of your sword, Kakashi said. What do you mean? Though the both had the same technique, even though they named it differently. Aya mumbled the last part. Kakashi chuckled lowly hearing the last part. That might be true, but the way it's molded looks only to be slightly similar. Maya-san's chakra wave looked to be sharper and longer than Naruto-san's, but at the same time it was thinner, like a finely molded sword. Kakashi explained, turning around. From what I saw, the focus of the attack seemed to only aim for the first thing it makes contact with, Kakashi said, gathering chakra into the kunai. He swung his arm swiftly, wincing a little. Upon releasing his chakra, a arc of chakra flew at the trees. There was no sound made as the first tree that wave made it to was cut in half. Both of them watched the trees, noticing nothing moved. After a moment, Aya took the chance to move towards the trees in front of him. She placed her hand on the tree above the cut and pushed. Aya struggled, pushing against the large tree. It moved slightly but otherwise stayed standing. Interesting. It was such a clean cut that the tree wasn't affected by it, Kakashi said as Aya stopped. Aya looked at the trees behind it, only seeing a light cut in it. Ah, I see. Aya let out, trying to think of a way to do it. How about Naruto's? She asked, turning back to him. Kakashi looked at her and smiled. Naruto-san's version of it. It was more destructive, for lack of a better word, Kakashi said, to which Aya nodded. The chakra was molded to hold more. Do you know about the quality control of yin and yang? Kakashi asked suddenly. Aya blinked before nodding slowly, having gone over it a little with her parents years ago. Good. This will make things easier, Kakashi said. So Naruto's, you could say, is packed full of physical energy, with an outlining of spiritual energy. The percentage would be about 70 and 30. The shape transformation is in the shape of a V. A long vertical V, Kakashi said, not knowing how else to describe it. Here, let me show you a weak version of it, Kakashi said, gathering his chakra. He raised his right arm up as Aya moved away from the tree. She watched as he swung his arm down and watched as the ground was ripped apart. It stopped before it even reached 2 inches away from him. Both of them blinked, a little surprised. Aya turned to look at Kakashi, who looked on, calculating. I must not have added enough chakra, he said. That's not it. Did I mold the chakra wrong? He thought. He noticed the basic shape of the attack etched into the ground. That's the shape I was trying to show you, though, Kakashi said, pointing at it. Aya looked down and blinked at it before downing. So that's what it looks like, Aya said. He never really gave me an image to work with, Aya said, smiling a little. Oh, Kakashi let out curiously. Yeah. He told me it would be better not to know, Aya said before giggling. Kakashi blinked, almost feeling like he shouldn't have done so. Okay, I have to work harder, Aya said, holding her sword up. Kakashi grinned as he moved back. I like your enthusiasm. How about you train for an hour before heading back? Kakashi said. Aya nodded and closed her eyes, concentrating. Finally, Naruto shouted out before diving onto the bed. A bed. A sweet, sweet, sweet bed, Naruto said, rubbing his face into the fabric of the sheets. Maya came into the room a few seconds later with a shake of her head. Are you thinking about going to sleep? Maya asked. Naruto grinned, nodding. Yeah, I don't think so, she said, walking over to the bed. She grabbed his leg just as he grabbed onto the other side of the bed. She pulled him hard, only to hear and feel the bed move with him. Maya stopped pulling him and gave him a glare. Let go. Maya let out. No, he replied with a grin. Let go, she growled out, pulling on him again. No, the blonde-haired ninja said, pulling on the bed. He managed to get out of her grip but realized he pulled too hard. He was sent off the bed, flying face first into the wall. Ow, he let out as Maya stared at him. She chuckled a little before sitting on the bed. Idiot, she let out, grinning. She looked over at the wall before leaning back on the bed. Naruto rose up a few seconds, staring at Maya. You took my spot, Naruto said. She smiled at him and folded her arm behind her head. Too bad. You left the spot, she let out. Oh, we are going off that, huh? Naruto let out. He crouched a little, bending his knees before jumping up. Maya reacted quickly, expecting something like this. She turned over to her right, dodging the incoming body. The moment she felt his body bounce on the bed, she came back around with her elbow out. Hiya, she let out, hitting him in his back. Ichichin, Naruto let out in pain. Ha, she let out. How do you like that? She asked smugly, sitting up. Naruto tried to rub his sore spot but failed. He got you good, huh? She let out. Naruto looked at her, his eyes narrowed in a glare. His blinked, realizing he got his spot back, and smiled. He moved his hands out and grabbed on the sheets before moving them closer and nuzzling into them. I got my spot back, he said, closing his eyes happily and turning his head. Maya stared at him for a second before shrugging. Meh, she let out. She moved onto the bed, switching her position so she could lay head to head with Naruto. Too bad Naruto was good at revenge. He rolled toward her quickly, raising his hand up. He brought it down fast, striking her behind. Kaya! Maya let out in shock, moving her hands to her butt. She looked over at Naruto, her eyes wide. Bad girl, bad, Naruto scolded. She gritted her teeth, narrowing her eyes. Naruto grinned at her before jumping out of the bed. She followed right after him, tackling him before he got too far. Naruto hit the ground hard, rolling a little bit with Maya's weight. Naruto shook it off as Maya got on his back. She quickly moved her right arm around his neck. She was forced to blink when he disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving behind a pillow in his place. She coughed as she breathed in the smoke. Damn, Maya coughed out. She waved her hand around, dispersing the smoke. She coughed a few more times, glancing around, searching for her soon-to-be-beaten friend. She noticed he was nowhere to be seen. She glanced at the now open window and frowned. If he left there, it would be a little bit before she caught him. She continued to glance around, looking for any signs of him in the room. After all, it wouldn't be the first time he used the window ploy to hide himself. She looked at the bed and narrowed her eyes. She wondered if he hid there. Could be, knowing Naruto, he would, only because she wouldn't usually check under the bed. Well, until everything else was checked. Thinking about it now, she could always try to sense his chakra. Nah, that would be too easy and cheating. Not that she cared much about cheating. Just that Naruto always seemed to know when she was. She moved over to the bed, glancing at it. There was something she was forgetting. It was something very important. Something that she should remember, but she couldn't quite place it. It would help her win this little contest of theirs. Though it wasn't really a contest, it was more like payback. She bent over a little, reaching for the sheets. Her hand moved slowly, inch by inch, centimeter by centimeter. There was this nagging feeling in the back of her head. It was there sometimes when Naruto would attack from above. Above! She quickly looked up, twisting her body. She jumped a little, swinging her foot up in the air. Just as she guessed, Naruto did come down from the ceiling and got kicked right in the stomach. He doubled over as Maya continued her motion, sending him toward the window. She landed on the ground and realized her mistake all too late when Naruto flew straight out the window. "Naruto!" came her panicked shout. She stood straight before jumping over the bed and running towards the window. She got there in time to see Naruto disappear into a puff of smoke. She blinked, slightly shocked, just as something grabbed her ankles. She looked back just in time to see two hands pull her back. She fell forward, losing her balance. She reacted fast enough to grab onto the windowsill and stop herself from hitting the ground. What she didn't expect was for Naruto's arms to encircle her arms, under her armpits. She felt his hands press against the back of her head and frowned as she was picked up off her feet. "Gotcha," she heard him whisper. She struggled a little before she was pulled backward. "Get off!" Her command rang out just as they both fell backward. She felt herself bounce a little and realized they hit the bed. Her eyes went wide, feeling Naruto's legs wrap around her waist. He. Naruto let out as Maya started to struggle fiercely. He was physically stronger than her. He knew that she did as well. He was also good at locks, something that she experienced many times. He knew it was over. He was just waiting for her to realize it. He simply watched her as she first tried to use force to break the hold. Failed horribly. Next, she tried to roll them over so she was on her stomach. He understood what she was doing, but she wouldn't succeed. He refused to let that happen. He was successful in keeping her on her back. Next, she tried to use only her leg strength to lift the both of them up. He laughed. She didn't have the position nor the strength to do that. "Hi-ya-iya!" she screamed out loudly. She was frustrated. She hated being restrained like this. This was the only time she couldn't use anything she learned to get out. She yelled again, this time trying to hit him with the back of her head. Caught Naruto off guard, but it didn't help much on the loosening the hold. She tried again, but this time he was prepared. He used his hands to hold her head at bay. He didn't push too hard. After all, he didn't want to hurt her. Her efforts was useless. She was slowly realizing it. Naruto knew it by the way she was turning or trying to turn in his arms. Too bad he had her locked in. Her frustrated yell filled the room again as she started to swing her arms and legs wildly. "Give up," Naruto said. "You can't get out." "No." Her defiant reply came out in a heavy pant. She tried again, this time arching her back, trying to break the hold his legs had on her. Good idea, too bad Naruto had a fast reaction time. He was able to quickly stop her plan by pressing back down on her with his legs. She tried to sit up next, but Naruto's weight plus the position of his legs stopped that. She was sweating now, not to mention swearing up a storm under a hushed breath. Naruto grinned. She was going to give up soon. Naruto watched, just waiting, savoring the slow victory. Maya breathed heavily. She wanted to use a jutsu, wanted to use one so badly, but she couldn't get a good aim on him. She flailed out again with her legs as sweat poured down her face. She wanted out of this. She wanted out bad. She couldn't think straight. The only thing that went through her mind was that she had to get free. This is one of the things she hated the most. She was in a panicked state. She knew this, but there wasn't anything she could do about it. She wanted out now. "Naruto, please let me go," she said lowly. Naruto blinked, his mouth opening. "What?" he said, almost confused. Maya shifted slightly before relaxing her whole body. She looked at the wall, her eyes downcast in defeat. "Naruto, can you please let me go?" she asked politely. Her voice was as sweet as candy to him. He loved it, not to mention it wasn't many times he got her to admit defeat like this. "Do you admit defeat?" Naruto asked, an air of superiority surrounding him. Yes, it was a whispered. Naruto understood it. It was her last act of defiance. Why give the pleasure of saying it loudly? He would accept it. After all, he did like it better when she fought back. "Will you give in to the winner's demand?" he asked. It was a condition they had, not that Maya used it a lot, but then again neither did he. But this was one time when he needed it. After all, he didn't want the repercussion of slapping her, but this time Maya nodded. That was something Naruto wouldn't accept. "Sorry, I didn't catch that," Naruto said. "Yes, I will," she replied. It was louder than the yes from earlier. That was good. Naruto could only smirk at her. "Okay, my demand is simple. For the rest of tonight, you will not punish me or inflict any type of pain to me for anything I've done. Or will do," Naruto said. Maya didn't really think about it. She didn't care. It could be worse, way worse, like the first time he won when they set it up. But that was a different story. "Done," she said, her breathing a little lighter than before. Naruto smiled, releasing her. There was no need to have her promise or any need for insurance. He trusted her to follow it like she would to him when she forced him into submission, which would be sometime after the mission, he hoped. She rolled to the right, making sure she was off him. She was still tired. She wasted a lot of energy with that scuffle. Naruto was still fresh though. He looked at her as her breathing started to even out. Her back was to him. He doubted it as because of anything too serious, probably just mad that he defeated her. The record now was her 785 to his 780. He hummed out, a little disappointed at the gap. He thought it was smaller. He had to even it up soon, but that would take a little time. He grinned, closing his eyes. They laid there for 5 minutes in silence. Naruto could hear Maya shifting. She was doing it a little too often. He opened his eyes and looked at her. Worried? Naruto asked, suddenly turning his head to her. She jumped a little and looked at Naruto. I thought you were sleeping, she said. Naruto grinned at her and shook his head. Nope, he replied cheerfully. So you worried? He asked again. Maya stared at him for a second. She looked away, turning her body so she was lying on her stomach. She folded her arms and rested her chin on her forearms. Yeah, I'm worried. I feel like we are gonna have to face two more jounin. From what I sensed, they have enough chakra to be a jounin, Maya said. So that must make me a jounin as well, huh? Naruto said, smiling. Maya looked at him before smiling. I see your point, but I just don't want to expect something less when there is a possibility it is higher, Maya explained. Naruto took in what she said and frowned. That makes sense in a way, but getting yourself nervous over a maybe isn't good, Naruto said. The possibility they are jounin are pretty high considering it's that bastard, but it's also possible that he couldn't get anybody of that level to work with him. His personality is crappy that way, Naruto explained. But he is good at acting and had a chance to get a lot of money, Maya added. Naruto looked at her and blinked a couple of times. Sometimes you are such a pessimist, Naruto said with a twinge of disappointed in his voice. Maya's eyes shot to him as he looked forward. Don't worry about such small details as titles. We gave Hibi-sensei a run for her money and beat her, and I was able to fight Zabuza quite evenly if only for a while, Naruto said. Maya looked downward with a downcast expression. And do I need to remind you of our current record? He added. Maya looked at him and smiled, already knowing what he was trying to say. She shook her head to his question and he smiled. Now clear your mind of your worries. If there are two jounin with him, then we will team up. We're undefeatable together, Naruto said. Maya closed her eyes, smiling at his words. Thanks. I feel a little better, Maya said. Naruto gasped in utter shock. A little better? Oh no, I didn't do a good job, Naruto exclaimed. Then I will add something else. I will give you a massage to make all your worries go away, Naruto said, getting up on his knees with his hands up. Maya chuckled with a little blush. She lightly pushed him. If you give me a massage, I'll beat you up, she said playfully. Naruto grinned at her happily at the change of tone. He laid back on the bed and grinned at her. He folded his arms and rested his chin on his arms. He watched her as she looked forward at the wall again. He waited a few minutes, almost certain she was going to ask him some question. Maya turned to him with her mouth open. How is it like? She asked nervously. Naruto blinked at her before looking back and forth confused. Look, Maya-chan, no matter what Hibi-sensei said, I am still a 100% virgin, Naruto said, a little panicked. At that, Maya blinked, wondering how she didn't expect something like that. I'm talking about fighting Zabuza, she said. Naruto blinked, forming an O with his mouth. Naruto glanced to the left before shaking his head. He turned his head fully and stared at the wall. He was quiet for a moment, trying to get his mind on the fight. Maya was willing to wait, after all, she was the patient one. It was different, Naruto said after a minute of silence. What do you mean? Maya asked. It was scary in a way. Fighting someone who you know is stronger than yourself. He had me on edge. I knew one mistake would cause me to lose, so I had to think carefully of what I did. I felt cornered but not cornered. I felt scared but not scared at the same time. The thought of him changing target weighed on my mind during the fight and made me act a lot more than I should have, Naruto explained. Maya watched him as he spoke. She understood most of it, though the end kind of confused her. What do you mean by it made you act a lot more than you should have? She asked. Naruto blinked and looked at her. At that moment he realized he said a little too much. Use too much chakra and all, he said nervously. She let out before looking forward. Anyway, instead of all this thinking, let's go to sleep. We have a pretty interesting day tomorrow, Naruto said, grinning. Maya blinked and looked at him. She nodded, realizing he did have a point. She would wonder about what he said later. She was about to lay her head down when an idea crossed her mind. You're not planning to do anything, right? She asked. Naruto jumped, surprised at her words. What? I'm not planning anything. Nothing at all. Naruto responded quickly. Maya stared at him for a second, not believing him at all. Sleep somewhere else, she replied. Naruto blinked, taking on a look of pure confusion. He realized what she must have meant and narrowed his eyes. I was here first, he said. Maya gave him a blank look. So? She replied. I'm not getting up, Naruto said with a defiant look. Yes, you are, she replied, narrowing her eyes. Make me, Naruto said, challenging her. Maya glared at him, remembering the deal. She closed her eye and turned away. Humph, she let out. Naruto smiled, closing his eyes. He doubted she would try anything tonight. Night, Maya-chan, Naruto said. Maya looked at him a bit confused. She figured he would try something. Night whiskers, she said, smiling. Naruto jolted slightly at the name. Maya grinned, she always got him with it. Naruto opened his eyes slightly and glared at her. She stuck out her tongue at him, and he almost responded with something that would have gotten him a beating later. Oh well, there will always be next time. He shook his head and closed his eyes, looking away. It was time for him to sleep a bit, if only a little bit. Naruto's eyes opened suddenly, his vision a little hazy. He blinked a couple of times, allowing his vision to stabilize. The first sight he managed to see was that of the ceiling. He blinked confused, knowing damn well he was on his stomach when he fell asleep. He wasn't a wild sleeper, he knew that much. He glanced around the room a little and listened to the soft breathing of his friend. He shifted his body a little, slightly moving his fingers around, noticing extra weight on his body. He blinked and looked down, noticing an arm draped on his chest. He followed it to the owner and blinked, realizing it was Maya. She was laying on her side, cuddled up against him. Naruto wasn't surprised at the fact that she's so close to him, it was the fact that it happened so soon. Not many people knew, but Maya had a habit of cuddling up to him when they slept in close quarters. Though she thought it was him who was the one who would snuggle into the nearest person. He hadn't decided to tell her yet either. He remembered how it started. When they were younger, Maya invited him for sleepovers. It was like a 3-day-a-week thing. When he would go to sleep, instead of taking a guest room, she would sneak him into her room so he could sleep there. Her parents didn't like it, but Maya didn't care much. He forgot her reasoning behind it as well. After about 3 weeks of it, she started to cuddle close to him when he was a little too far away her. Even going as far as to get out of her bed and get into the futon with him when her parents did let him sleep in her room. Naruto shook his head, getting rid of his fond memories. He had something to do and couldn't be distracted. He moved slowly away from her, making sure to take her arm off of him. He had to do it just right. Too slow and she would wake up, too fast and she would attack. But then again, he had mastered this a few years ago. He has just been out of practice. It didn't take him long to get off the bed, and luckily without waking Maya. He looked back at her and noticed something he couldn't see before. She had changed. No, the correct term was stripped. She was simply wearing a black bra and a pair of boxers. Correction, his boxers. He blushed. She didn't care much if he saw her in her underclothes with everything they went through as kids and everything he saw, and he understood that well enough. The problem was he was a guy and she was an attractive girl who was developing nicely. He also understood that it was the whole touching certain areas without permission thing that always got him hit. He was pretty sure if he asked her she would say no anyway, so why ask, when he already knew the answer. Another thing. Why was she wearing his boxers? He shook his head and looked at Maya's face. At this point he was wondering whether he should leave or not. He would love to just stay up like this and watch her sleep. She looked like a sleeping princess or a goddess. He thought about it for a second before nodding. He would go, hopefully he wouldn't be long. He reached out and softly stroked Maya's cheek. She lowly hummed. Naruto. Don't do anything funny, she mumbled. Naruto grinned nervously. She was half awake, or at least awake enough to think he would try something. Damn it, he just was about to do something too. Not anything perverted, mind you. He nodded at her even though she couldn't see it. He stood up slowly off the bed and glanced around. The room is dark, but not too dark for him to see his bag. He walked over to it and crouched down, quickly going into it. He took out a scroll and looked at it before he noticed that his kunai pouch was on the floor next to his bag, courtesy of Maya, no doubt. He smiled as he picked it up and put it back where it should be. He put the scroll in his kunai pouch and stood up straight. He turned and looked back at Maya. He tilted his head, noticing she had somehow got a pillow and was hugging it tightly. Again he smiled. The only thing on his mind was how she did it without him noticing. He shook his head, getting his mind clear. He turned to the door and walked to it. He stopped in front of it and slowly opened the door just enough for him to get out. He slipped through the doorway, closing the door silently behind him. He cast one last glance at the door before turning his head to the right. He looked at the few extra doors and walked towards them. He knew they had a room near some kid that Tsunami adopted or something. So the next room was where Aya should be. He smiled sadly. He would love to go see her, but he had something to do. He turned away and made his way towards the stairs. Naruto quietly made his way to the front door, making sure to avoid anything that would have made even a tiny amount of noise. He put on his shoes quietly and quickly. Just as he grabbed the door knob, a small creak caught his attention. He looked over to the origin of the noise to find Anko leaning up against the wall with her arms crossed under her breast. "Where are you headed?" she asked, her expression one of the utmost seriousness. He took note of her expression before giving her a nervous smile. "Me? I'm just going on a midnight walk." Naruto answered, a small bead of sweat rolling down his face. "Oh," Anko replied, not hiding her suspicion. Naruto nodded, a little nervous. "Maya-chan got me a little nervous. So I'm gonna go clear my head," Naruto said, looking down slightly. "You're worried about the ninja that are supposed to be hired?" she asked. Naruto looked back at her before nodding. "The whole mystery behind them, and the fact that there are probably going to be two," Naruto said. Anko raised an eyebrow at this before her other student came to mind. "Oh, Maya-chan," Anko said. Naruto nodded, looking back down. "Don't get me wrong. I'm not so confident about my skills that I would take a jounin on by myself. But considering the fact that there might be two, including Seiki, gets me nervous," Naruto said. He looked at his teacher and realized she had a confused expression on her face. "If that's the case, why did you fight Zabuza alone?" she asked. He looked at her, almost confused, before turning back to look at the door. "Shit. I knew it would come up again," he thought. He shifted a little and scratched his head. I was kind of forced into fighting him alone," Naruto said. Anko raised her eyebrow, confused at the statement. "Care to give an in-depth explanation?" she asked. He looked back at her and nodded. "Well, with one-eyed caught, we wouldn't have been able to escape from Zabuza," Naruto explained. Anko nodded, understanding, and waited for him to continue. Emo Dick had already shown his fear, so he was useless. Sakura-chan had already got it into her mind that just because he was a jounin we couldn't do much against him, which crossed her out also. Naruto explained. Anko nodded again, understanding his logic. "What about Maya and Aya?" she asked. Aya-chan was afraid, but her worry for me outweighed that. I could have fought with her, but I feel I would have been more worried about her than actually fending off Zabuza. Naruto started. "And Maya? Well, I would have worked with her, but after the short scuffle Maya-chan and I had with the ass, it became apparent that he was a little too much for us together," Naruto said. Anko blinked at that and stood up a little straighter than she was. Her eyes narrowed a little as many questions rose in her mind. "So, together he was too much for you too, yet you fought him alone? What kind of sense does that make?" she asked, confusion evident in her voice, with a little bit of anger. Naruto frowned, looking dead into her eyes. "It makes perfect sense when the person you are fighting doesn't know you well," he fired back. "Explain," she ordered. "When I was younger, I was told something in great detail. Ninja, samurai, and any type of warrior rarely loses the mindset of judging a person," Naruto said calmly, looking away. To this, Anko blinked, understanding a little. No matter how much they are told not to, underestimating or overestimating somebody comes naturally. There aren't many people who go into battle with somebody without some expectation. During the brief scuffle we had, I realized he was underestimating us greatly, Naruto said, slightly angry. When he first attacked, I noticed the speed at which he swung his blade was slower than when he swung it at one eye. Secondly, I noticed that when Maya-chan attacked and he retreated, he began a motion to swing his blade but stopped almost as soon as he began. Naruto said, growling a little. Anko uncrossed her arms and stared, looking as he stated to clench and unclench his right hand in rapid succession. She was impressed that he managed to observe that. From what Maya told her, she didn't notice it. Though I am grateful he didn't attack, I am annoyed that he took it easy on us. Naruto let out. He relaxed his hand and sighed. I figured if both of us fought him together, he would reorganize himself and fight serious. If he did, we wouldn't really have much of a chance. So I decided to fight alone at first. This would give everyone a chance to see his movements and maybe spot a weakness. And if I lost, it would give them an advantage over him. Naruto said. Anko frowned at him, realizing there was no deceit in his words. She had mixed emotions about the whole situation when she heard it from Maya, but at least then Naruto seemed like he was just arrogant and wanted to show off. Arrogance is easily fixed. It isn't so easy now. At this moment he seems as if he planned for everything. Meaning he was ready to give his life up for that chance. Something that she really wasn't okay with. Everything was turning out well for the most part until Sasuke interfered. Naruto said, drawing her attention. If he didn't throw those kunai, then that hunter Nin wouldn't have acted until Zabuza was completely cornered, and I would have been able to wound him enough to retreat. Naruto said. Anko blinked at this, her eyes narrowing a little. You knew the hunter ninja was there? She asked, bringing a sudden stop to Naruto. The blonde pupil eyes widened a little, realizing he said a little too much. Shit, what is wrong with me tonight? He thought. Naruto figured there was no use in lying and nodded to her. He was quite easy to sense and spot. I'm not sure how much of a problem he will pose, but we should be able to handle him, Naruto said. Anko nodded, still wondering how he was able to spot him. She stared at him for a little bit, getting a stare back. He could tell she was thinking about everything he just said, and a lot of it she would wind up bringing up at a later date to try and catch him in some type of lie. She was good at that. They stood like this for a minute, both looking into each other's eyes. Naruto really didn't have a problem with this. After all, he did like Anko's eyes. Well, your reasoning behind everything is acceptable. Anko started leaning off the wall. Acceptable? Naruto thought as he watched her walk over to him. She stopped in at his side and placed her hand on his shoulder. While I understand your reasoning behind, I really don't like your solution for it, Anko replied, moving slightly behind him. I couldn't really think of anything else, Naruto said, nervously looking at the door. Anko grinned before quickly bending over and capturing Naruto in a hug. What about retreating? She whispered in his ear. Naruto blinked at that before frowning. That didn't really come to mind, Naruto replied. To retreat in that situation meant giving up one eye, Naruto said, whispering the last part. Anko smirked, pressing her chest onto his back. Naruto blushed a little, trying hard not to start anything. That's surprising. From what I remember, you don't care much for the lives of men, Anko said. Naruto glanced at her and nodded. That is correct. I don't. But Ayachan needs a good teacher. And I don't really want to see somebody I teamed up with die, Naruto replied. Anko smiled at that before pulling him back a little. Nice to hear, she whispered in his ear. Naruto shivered a little, glancing back at Anko. I'll let you go on your little walk. But don't do anything stupid, Anko said. Naruto nodded again, grinning a little. She released him and patted his head. Don't stay out too late, she said, taking a step back. All right, Naruto replied, opening the door. He walked out, casting a single glance at Anko before closing the door behind him. I wonder, he thought before jumping from the walkway of the house. Is that good enough for you? Anko let out once she was sure Naruto was far enough away. The door leading to the kitchen opened and Kakashi stepped out. He looked at Anko with a cool gaze. I suppose so. I guess he does think about his teammates, Kakashi said. Anko narrowed her eyes a little, frowning. He was able to think of the whole situation, but he took everything upon himself instead of trusting in his teammate and friends, Kakashi added. At times that is necessary, Anko replied back before looking at the door, exposing the fact that he knew about the hunter Nin might have forced him to enter the fight. That would have been more dangerous than what he did, Anko explained. Kakashi blinked, thinking it over. That might be true, but that doesn't mean it was the right choice. He put both teams and employer at great risk, Kakashi replied. Anko glared a little harder. Says the person who got captured by the enemy. Not to mention the student who nearly killed his comrade with an unnecessary action. Enko shot back. Kakashi blinked at the jab before looking away. Okay. Let's just say, we both need things to work on, Kakashi said, scratching his cheek. Enko looked at the door, nodding. That's fine with me, she replied, turning around. I'm checking on my other student. Enko let out before Kakashi could ask. She passed him and opened the door to the hallway before walking through, closing it behind her. Wow. She's very protective when concerning Naruto, he thought. Naruto shot forward through the trees, a frown etched on his face. I wasn't expecting Enko to catch me. Now that I think about it, leaving through the window would have been smarter, he thought, landing on a branch before jumping to the next one. I don't have much time. With her knowing I'm out like this make me nervous. I'll have to do this as fast as possible, he thought, digging in his pouch. He brought out a single circular pill and the scroll he pocketed. He popped it in his mouth before chewing on it. After a second, he swallowed, closing his eyes. He landed on a tree branch and exhaled before molding chakra into his legs. He shot off a second later at a faster pace, opening his eyes, revealing his narrowed pupils. The town was quiet, almost devoid of life to the observing eye. The buildings tattered and decayed. The town is barely illuminated by the light of the quarter of the visible moon. Jinsook stood on the very tip of a roof. His eyes scanned out at the dead town. His cloak swayed a little as the wind gently blew. He was anxious tonight. Whether it was the gloomy moon above or the mission he had just joined, he wasn't too sure, but something put him on edge. He felt his cloak sway again. This time it moved much more erratically. He narrowed his eyes before glancing back, feeling a slight presence behind him. Pretty good. There haven't been many people who could sneak up on me, he said. From that little glance, he saw the complete figure of his adversary, and he was quite shocked, to tell the least. It was a kid, about 12 years old, wearing a hooded cloak as black as night. The worst part of it was that he was blonde. He saw a few blonde strands covering some of the visible part of his face. How could a freaking blonde-haired kid sneak up on him? It didn't make much sense to him, especially with the way the roof would creak every time one moved. It was part of the reason he stood there. Jinsook was the type of guy to only believe what he himself has seen. He was sure no kid could sneak up on him. The type of training he has gone through since he was young proved that, or so he thought. It was time to change his perspective on life again. Jinsook said nothing as he waited for some type of acknowledgement from the boy. He wasn't too sure about him, but the fact he could sneak up on him proved he would be a good opponent. He was happy he wore a cloak tonight. It would be able to hide a lot of his movements. He began to slowly reach into his kunai pouch, aiming for a few shuriken. You are Watanabe Jinsook, the boy said. Jinsook's eyebrows raised at that. A missing ninja from the Moon Village, he said. Okay, if Jinsook wasn't shocked before, he was now. He didn't think a kid would know of him. Was an assassin sent after him? Thoughts quickly went through his mind as to who this kid was. Not that any of this really mattered to him. The boy was going to die in a little bit. Jinsook just had a really bad habit of entertaining thoughts of enemies. The cloaked Jounin turned around slowly, fully facing the boy, making sure his hand that held his shuriken was in no way possible seen. His eyes zoned in on his forehead at first, but found no insignia of his village. There was no hiatate anywhere visible on him, for that matter. He was disappointed a little. He was hoping to at least find out who his attacker might be without asking. Oh well. Wait a second, he thought, his zoning on the young boy's face. He noticed 3 scar-like marks on each of his cheeks, almost giving it a look of whiskers. Thoughts of the Konoha ninja he spied on earlier came to mind. There was a blonde boy in their group. His name was Uzumaki Naruto, if I'm correct. Seiki calls him Naru. Jinsook thought. You must be Naruto-san, from Konoha, he replied in return. At that, Naruto narrowed his eyes a little. So, that dipshit did say something about me, Naruto said briefly, turning his head to the left. At that moment, Jinsook raised his left arm, releasing 5 shuriken from his hand. Almost instantly, a kunai found its way to Naruto's right hand. He proceeded to deflect each of the projectiles with practical ease, sending them scattering around him. Naruto looked forward with an expression of understanding. Interesting, Jinsook said from behind him, his arm raised high with a kunai in hand. He swung his arm in a sweeping movement, aiming at Naruto's neck. Jinsook watched as the young ninja leaned back, almost like he was falling backward, raising his left arm simultaneously. Odd, Jinsook thought as his forearm collided with Naruto's. The next second he felt the genin's hard elbow near the center of his stomach. He let out a cough as he was forced back. He ignored the impulse to hold his stomach and stared at the blonde kid. The way he blocked, it was odd, and his strength. He thought, noticing Naruto's right hand shift. In a brief second, Naruto disappeared from his spot and closed the distance between the two. Pretty fast, he thought with a frown. Jinsook raised his left hand up, blocking an incoming punch aimed at his face. Jinsook glanced at the boy's hand, feeling only the back of 2 fingers. He managed to get a glance of a small black ball being held by Naruto's index and middle fingers. Fuck, he thought as Naruto closed his hand into a fist tightly. A popping noise went off before his vision was completely engulfed by smoke. This kid, Jinsook thought as he felt Naruto's fist leave his hand. He brought his right hand up to cover his mouth as he coughed and drew a kunai with his left. He held it in front of him and narrowed his eyes, trying to find the figure of the boy. This is bad. Did I underestimate him because he's a kid? Jinsook thought. No, I should be wondering about his eyes. They weren't like that before, Jinsook thought. He had caught sight of them in the brief instance before the smoke bomb went off. They were slits, but not your normal, run-of-the-mill, evil slit like pupils like Orochimaru or demonic people had. It looked like something hard to describe. Bad thing is, he heard of something like this before about 8 to 10 years ago. He hated his selective memories. His thought process was cut short when he felt it. The presence wasn't small like he would have figured. It was blatantly obvious, but something was off. There was something wrong with it. Something that Jinsook would even go as high to saying it felt supernatural. He wouldn't let that stop him though. He pivoted quickly, moving his kunai in an attack position. He burst forward, seeing his target. He managed to impale something on his kunai and twisted it. He felt liquid run down his hand and grinned before pulling back and kicking it. Oh fa! He heard a second before hearing a body hit the roof. He let out a sigh before walking forward as the smoke blew away. He looked at the boy's unmoving form and frowned. Ha! Killing kids always leaves a bad taste in my mouth, he said, staring as blood stained the roof tiles. Not a second later, he felt an intensive pain coming from his stomach and looked down quickly. A sharp blade of a katana poked out to his surprise. He turned his head, frowning. He had an accomplice. I should have. His train of thought stopped, seeing Naruto's face. He quickly turned his head forward and saw the body in front of them disappear in a puff of smoke. Kage? Bunshin? Impossible, he whispered. Yes, Naruto answered. He stared to twist the blade as he pressed his right leg down. Forgive me. You seem like a good enough fighter. But I couldn't allow you to start using jutsu. It would have exposed me, Naruto said lowly, his voice in a monotone. Hn, so you were sent after me. Jinsook coughed. Naruto shook his head. No, you was a great threat to my teammate. One that I couldn't allow her to confront, he said. What? He thought. Well, that's too bad, Jinsook said. Naruto narrowed his eyes at both the tone and strength of his voice. A few images appeared before his eyes before he grinned a little. Nice try, Naruto said, gathering chakra into his sword and passing it into Jinsook. What? He thought, and he discreetly did hand seals. He suddenly stopped, realizing he couldn't mold his chakra correctly. He felt another twist of the katana and winched. By filtering my chakra into your body, your ability to mold your own becomes impossible. Unless you can somehow match the properties of mine. And that is impossible, Naruto said, his tone full of cockiness. Little punk, Jinsook thought. He felt Naruto shift, hearing his right foot press down. Time to die, Naruto whispered almost sorrowfully. At the sound of his words, Jinsook took the moment to burst forward, leaving Naruto's bloody sword behind. He had to attack now. He couldn't let himself die because he let his guard down. He would use an attack as a distraction and use the kawarimi to switch out before making his escape. He pivoted around quickly, doing hand seals as fast as he could possibly manage. Suck! Just as the word came from his mouth, he felt something bash into his stomach. He could feel it pierce through him. Blood came out of his mouth in globs as he froze. What just hit him? He couldn't see it. Was it a chakra blast? He looked down at his stomach only to find a large fist-sized hole, blood leaking out like syrup. His head tilted as he collapsed. His vision was getting hazy as he tried to move his weakening body. He looked at the boy ahead of him, only being able to make out the eerie red glow of his pupils. He stared as Naruto's figure doubled before coming back to one. The boy was suddenly replaced by a dark, smoky figure. With a blink, that figure was gone, revealing the kid who defeated him. Defeat by a kid. Jinsook managed out before his face fell. Naruto stared at him, watching the older shinobi's eyes close, blood pooling under him. He wasn't dead, Naruto knew this. He could still see the aura of his chakra or spirit resonating within his body. He could never get it right, but he understood it enough. He would be dead soon enough from blood lost. He had learned how terrifying that attack was when used with the right amount of chakra. He experienced it just once, but that was one too many times. He glanced over, looking at the fist-sized hole that came from his stomach. I should end it properly, he thought. It saddened him that he couldn't fight him the same way he fought Zabuza, but contrary to popular belief, he was not an idiot. Well, not a complete one. He wasn't strong or skilled enough to handle a full-blown battle with a well-trained Chunin, let alone an experienced Jounin. He wouldn't lie. Well, a lot. He got into a lucky situation where everything went his way. Kind of like this one. Naruto walked over to him, slowly glancing around for anything out of place. He stopped a few inches away from him and frowned. Naruto wasn't used to killing. He did kill somebody before. But it was well, he wouldn't lie to himself. It was on purpose. But it still wasn't something he could, or anyone for that matter, could get used to after one time. But the young genin understood it was something he would have to get used to in this occupation. He raised his sword up, blade pointed down. He adjusted his arm, making sure his aim was perfect. He didn't want to have to try it a second time. He took a deep breath, his eyes hardening as he prepared to take the man's life. He thrust his arm down fast with a slight grunt. His blade pierced through Jinsook, stabbing into the wooden boards under him. The sound rang through his ears. It was sickening in Naruto's opinion. It nearly made him cringe, but he couldn't do such a thing. It would ruin the last moment of the man in front of him. Naruto watched the man's spirit energy quickly disappear from his body. Watanabe Jinsook was dead, killed by him. It wasn't an honorable battle, a battle where someone absolutely needed to be protected. Sure, Maya-chan was the cause, but it could have been prevented without killing him in such a way. But Naruto couldn't come up with a way. This way was faster and much easier, so very much easier. Naruto stood up straight and looked at his corpse of the ninja before him. He watched blood slowly pool around him. Naruto raised his hands and watched them as they shook. He really didn't know how he was feeling, but it was different. He didn't have time for this. He had to leave now. He couldn't be found. His body wouldn't move though. It felt as though something was holding him in place. It was as if two hands rested on his shoulders, pressing him down. He looked to his right to make sure there weren't. His eyes widened, noticing the ghostly figure of a hand holding him tightly. What? He thought. Die, it was a whisper. A ghostly whisper. It was barely audible, but he could hear it. Naruto shifted again, struggling against the hold. Die. There it was again, a little bit louder this time. Naruto was beginning to panic now. He couldn't move his legs at all, and he didn't even want to guess what was holding him. He looked around, sweating a little, trying to find something, anything that could help him. His eyes landed on the katana that rested in the corpse of Jinsook. Die, it was even louder now, almost as loud as a scream. He reached out for the hilt of his katana, almost feeling like it was miles away. He managed to grab it and pulled it free instantly. Die! The shout resonated within Naruto like a hammer hitting a large bell. That caused Naruto to act almost on complete reflex. He swung both his blade and body around, slicing through whatever had him. He caught sight of it only for a second, but that second was a second too long, and it would haunt him for quite a while. The figure was ghostly, almost completely transparent. It had a feeling of death around it and something else, like a mixture of so many emotions. Its face was that of a disfigured skull with strands of brown hair. The specter vanished, leaving Naruto alone on the roof. He was panicking now. He wasn't exactly sure what the hell that was, and for his own sanity, he didn't even care to find out. His eyes must have been playing tricks on him. Yeah, that was it. Killing Jinsook caused him to hallucinate for a little bit. There was nothing more to it. He calmed his erratic breathing as he began to move his feet. Yes, I can move perfectly, he thought. His thought process stopped, seeing his sword, which was covered with blood, now slowly decaying. He didn't have time to think much about it when a glint caught his eye. He turned his head to the side as a man came down upon him, kunai in hand. Naruto's eyes widened and he quickly jumped away, getting his shirt cut in the process. He was happy he had Maya's chainmail on tonight, or he would have a large wound now. His cloak fluttered violently as he landed back, his eyes fixed on the body of the new arrival. "Ah, you killed Jinsook," he said, looking down at the corpse. "That sucks," he said, walking towards the body. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Was that sarcasm? Naruto's eyes watched him move with a nervous anticipation. He could see it before his eyes, the man. Ranmura, the moment he crouches down, he will throw 2 kunai from his cloak. Naruto would take that time to leave. Naruto didn't like running from battle, but his battle was already over. This was a fight Naruto would not accept in his current state. "Ah, you are that boy from earlier. I knew I sensed you from somewhere," he said with a sickeningly cheerful voice. At that moment he crouched down. "But you know, Jinsook was my prey." His rage-filled shout rang in Naruto's ears as 2 kunai shot forward from his cloak. Naruto was quick, not as quick as he should have been, but quick enough. He drew out 2 kunai and tossed them at incoming projectiles. He didn't even wait for them to hit before jumping away. He heard it, the screech of 2 metallic objects clashing. It hurt his ears a little, but he was used to it. The next roof was in sight and he was 3/4 of the way there. It was at that point he realized the shuriken that was currently speeding towards him. It wasn't really a problem. He would land safely with the shuriken flying over his head. Just as he predicted, it happened. Naruto had to leave. There was only one thing he could do. He ran forward, making a single hand seal, concentrating hard. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Naruto thought. It only took a second for 10 plumes of smoke to rise up. 10 clones appeared from the dissipating smoke and ran with him. Naruto's eyes widened slightly as he ducked down, going for a roll. He made a complete roll just as Ranmura came down on him, kunai in hand. He heard the kunai crack the roof as he slid. He made it to his feet and turned back. He crouched a little, frowning at the situation. He gathered his chakra to his feet, watching Ranmura. His clones made a circle around him, each drawing a kunai. The missing ninja watched the copies and looked at the one that rolled. "Not surprising," he said. Naruto only glared at him. This situation was completely unfavorable. But the good thing about it was that he just came up with an amazing plan. Naruto got to his feet and prepared himself. He glanced at his sword and found it to be completely in ruin. He looked back at Ranmura before tossing his sword to the side. He really didn't understand it, but at the moment he couldn't care. He took a deep breath, his narrowed pupils glowing. "Let's begin," he thought. He drew a kunai with a tag. He discreetly wrapped it around the kunai's hilt before narrowing his eyes. "Sorry, residents," he mumbled. Ranmura narrowed his eyes just as the cloaks of the 11 Narutos opened up, a kunai flying from each hand. Ranmura jumped up quickly, assuming they would be aimed at him. He watched with a little bit of surprise to see them hit the roof he was just on. He could only express his sudden admiration for the boy when the kunai blew up a few seconds later, shooting both smoke and broke wood up in the air. He saw them each shoot out of the smoke in different directions and grinned. "Escaping, huh? Oh well. We will meet again," he said to himself, drawing 2 kunai. He quickly tossed them to the one Naruto that was taking the ground as his route. They flew on course, striking him. He smirked, watching Naruto stagger a little, though he kept running. He saw Naruto glare back at him as he started his descent. He would have a lot of fun with this. Naruto made it to the forest, holding his side. What kind of bullshit aim is that? He thought to himself. He looked at the kunais that was still embedded in his side and frowned. "I'm not sure if I should take it out," he thought. "Ranmura, I will remember that for later. He missed my kidneys. By an inch," he thought, staggering forward. "I'm not losing that much blood, so I'll keep it in for now. I got to get back," he thought, jumping to a tree branch. Ranmura inspected Jinsook's body as footsteps caught his attention. "Is he dead?" Seiki asked. Ranmura looked back at him and nodded. "I see. Who did it?" he asked. He looked back at the corpse, glancing over the stab wound. "It was a hunter nin. He was good. I didn't sense him until it was too late," Ranmura said. Jinsook looked at him but couldn't tell if he was lying or not. He would have to trust him for now. Well, until he actually studied the body, that is. He watched as Ranmura moved the cloak a little. Jinsook saw a hole in the cloak and his shirt in shreds. He saw the marks on his skin and a sense of déjà vu. It was something he should remember. It was important, he knew it, he felt it. It would lead to who did it, but for some reason he could not remember. He let out a sigh, knowing he would have to figure it out soon. "Okay, Let's scan his body before getting rid of it, Jinsuke ordered. Sure, Ranmura replied grinning. He already had his eye on something. Naruto landed panting heavily. This is no good, he thought looking down at his side. Shit. I forgot about the chainmail. I'll have to buy her back one. Damn, I don't have the money for one like this. Naruto thought angrily. He looked forward and started to walk. He hadn't been running long. Maybe for 30 minutes? Or at least he felt like he had. He didn't have much choice in the matter. He had to get back. He couldn't let either of them know what he just did. It would be too much explaining to do if he did. Stuff that he wasn't ready nor willing to say just yet. He shook the though off and looked down at the kunai. He grabbed onto the first one and pulled hard enough to take it out of his side. He grunted as blood spurted out, staining his shirt. He frowned, bringing up the kunai to examine it. He stared at it for a few seconds and watched it as it duplicated with his hand. It drained too much of my chakra. The soldier pill I took, my eyes made it pretty much useless. I didn't think it would draw that much out. Why in the hell does tonight have to be the night for? You know what, fuck it, he thought. He put the kunai in his kunai pouch, making a mental note to examine it later. He repeated the process with the other kunai with a little more difficulty than before. He stayed still for a little bit before he began to walk forward towards Tezuna's house. He wasn't being followed from what he knew. He couldn't sense anyone around, and that was good. In this state, it would be bad to fight and would lead to unfavorable situation. Naruto looked at his hand, already noticing the shaking stopped. His hand dropped as he frowned. He didn't lose that much blood, but his wound was wide open now and bleeding even more. It would be a little bit before it heals. Maybe in the next 10 minutes or so. He wasn't sure if he should trust his survival to it, but he didn't have much choice now. He didn't want there to be a chance for him to be found, and he had a good distance to go. He wasn't sure if he would make it all the way back, but he had to at least make it around the village. Oh well, for now he had to concentrate on walking. If he didn't, he might just fall out. Anko tapped her fingers against the table. It was early, very early. The sun had just risen a few hours ago, and her blonde student was still nowhere to be seen. She was tempted to search for him. So very tempted, but she decided to wait at least until Tezuna leaves, until she does. She was going to hurt him. She really wouldn't mind this if he wasn't her student, but since he was and they were on a mission, it was something that bothered her greatly. She was now regretting letting him leave alone last night. She let out a sigh, tapping her fingers on the table again. She glanced at Kakashi, seeing him finish his meal. She didn't really care what was behind his mask, but his students seemed to be mildly interested. Maya was still sleeping. She had decided to let her sleep until Naruto returned, since she had something planned. But that brat hasn't come back yet. Excuse me, Anko-san, Tsunami said. Yeah. Anko let out, looking towards her. Just wondering, where are Maya-san and Naruto-san? She asked. Anko's hand twitched at the blonde boy's name. Brat number 2 is upstairs sleeping currently, and brat number 1 went out last night and hasn't come back, Anko said, looking away from her. Tsunami blinked at the names she gave them. She really didn't know which number was referring to which of her 2 students. Blonde brat is number 1 and silver brat is number 2, Anko said, catching her bewildered look. At that, Tsunami nodded in understanding. HM? He left last night, I asked, looking at Anko. Yep. He was nervous, so he went out for a little walk, Anko said. At that, Aya's mouth dropped. What? Anko asked. Naruto does non-stop training when he's nervous, Aya said. Anko stared at her for a second before looking away. Why didn't I know about that until now? She thought. She knows what one of his non-stop training programs look like. They ended up with him seriously hurting himself. But since he always tends to heal with a good night's sleep, she never really cared about it. She just never knew what triggers them. What time did he leave last night? I asked. About 12:30 a.m. Anko said, really quite unsure what time he left. If he was training for that long, then he might have used up all his chakra and died by now, Sakura said, rubbing her right eye. She absolutely didn't miss the heated glare coming from Aya a second later. I hope he's all right. A child all alone at night in the woods. You really don't have to worry. Everyone turned as Maya walked in the kitchen, sword in hand. I see you're finally up, brat, Anko greeted with a smile. Mornin sensei, she greeted with a forced smile. Everyone, she said, nodding to them before looking at Tsunami. Naruto is a good ninja, plus he's pretty good in the lush of the woods. Have yet to see anyone sneak up on him in there, Maya said. Humph. The woods would be perfect for a coward to hide, Sasuke let out. At that, Maya looked at him. It seems he was still angry about the attack. It really didn't matter to her how he felt though. She would say something back to him but found it a waste of time and energy. Not to mention she had to find her teammate. Despite what she just said, she was very much worried about her friend. So she would hold her tongue for now, but she had a feeling she was going to give both him and Sakura a good talking to. With her sword, that is. Yes, she heard what she said. She turned looking at the door before walking towards it. Going to find Naruto now. I'll be back later, Maya said. At that, Anko jumped up, deciding to help find him. She had a punishment to dish out. Aya was close to following after them just to make sure he was all right. But a look from her sensei made her stop. She understood why. It was probably because of their different mission, but that didn't mean she was any less worried. She would have to check up on him later, even though she knew any wounds he had would probably be healed by then. She sighed, resigning herself to her teacher's decision. Maya dashed ahead, glancing up at the trees above. Anko was jumping after her, deciding to take the high road. Very weird if you were to ask her. She didn't know what Anko had planned but knew to be very weary of it. Maya glanced to her right suddenly. She pivoted quickly before running forward. She could hear Anko's feet hit the branches above her and realized she was still on her track. Not that she was trying to lose her sensei. She just didn't want to have to call after her. Hey! Why are you running on the ground? Anko shouted out. Maya glanced up at her before looking forward again. No reason, Maya replied. It was true. She didn't really have any preference for traveling by treetop or on the ground. She just made it a habit to switch up between the two. It was originally Naruto's idea. He had some weird reasoning behind it. She just forgot what it was. She put it out of her mind as she changed course a little bit to the left. Naruto was close, very close. We are coming up to him, she let out, glancing up at her teacher. She saw Anko nod before slowing down herself. She slowed down to her normal-paced walk as Anko jumped down to the ground next to her. Where is he? The snake ninja asked. Maya turned left and began walking towards a large tree. She stopped in front of it before walking around the thick trunk. She was surprised to see that the area was relatively undamaged. Correction, the area was undamaged. There was nothing hinting even at any type of training whatsoever. She didn't even have to glance around to spot her teammate. His current state of dress was in great contrast to that of his surroundings. His hair as slightly tinted red from blood, no doubt. His shirt was gone completely, showing the chain mail shirt she gave him to wear. The gleam of the morning sun all gave her all the light she needed to spot the red spots on the light-weighted metal. From her spot, she noticed quite a few links broken, especially two near his side that caught her attention. His pants are now officially shorts. Naruto was sitting cross-legged, a book with a black cover in his hand. He seemed to be writing or drawing something, most likely the later. Maya glanced at Anko before pointing towards him. Anko walked up to her and stopped, looked towards Naruto. She blinked, giving him a blank stare. Maya, on the other hand, walked towards him slowly. Somehow she managed not to make any noise as she made way to his side. She stopped just by his side and looked over at the book. Hey Maya-chan, Naruto greeted, not even looking up from the book. Morning, she greeted back, looking at his book. She was right, he was drawing something. It looked to be in comic book format. On this page there was one large panel at the very top taking up half of the page and three smaller panels at the bottom. In the first panel there was a figure that looked to be a guy. He is a shinobi. Correction, he as a missing ninja if his scratched forehead protector was an indication. His cloak was swaying backward, showing his pants and shirt. He was standing up straight on a rooftop, looking at the out into the distance. There was still missing a lot, like shading for the shadows and lights, the finer details of the roof tiles, buildings, and in the cloak the missing nin was wearing. But that would be done in time. You have gotten better, she said. It was the truth. He started when he was just about 8 and he really had no talent for it, but he has improved a lot. Thanks, Naruto said. For some odd reason I decided to create a comic, he said, grinning. Maya looked at him and smiled, nodding. Wow, I'll like to see it when you're done, she said. Naruto smiled at her, nodding. I'll try and remember to show you, he said. She nodded at him and before something caught her attention. Oh, we should head over to Sensei, the silver-haired nin said. Naruto nodded as he got up, closing his book. Naruto placed his book inside his pouch and turned around. They both started to walk towards Anko, Maya sending a few glances over to Naruto. So was that your main character? She asked. Naruto shook his head. Nope. My main character will enter on the next page. And of course it's me. Naruto said, chuckling. Should have known. She thought, laughing a little. I hope you're adding me in it. Maya said, smiling. Naruto smiled at her. Secret. Naruto said cheerfully. Maya shook her head, a thought entering her head. What's the name of the missing ninja? She asked. Naruto blinked and looked ahead, taking on a blank expression. Watanabe Jinsuke. Naruto replied. Maya blinked at the tone. The name was okay, but the way he said it made her think that he went and killed someone. She looked ahead, making a mental note to ask about it at some time. Oh, watch out for sensei. I feel like she has something planned for you. Maya whispered. Naruto nodded, his grin returning. Naruto's back hit a tree hard, the bark cracking under the sudden pressure. Ugh! He let out, sliding down it before slouching forward, gasping for air. He was tired, dead tired. After his little escapade a few hours earlier, he hadn't had much time to rest. He managed to get to an area where he trained a little by 5. Why, you might ask? To give himself the look of somebody who was training all night. It was pretty hard to do. Not to mention he decided to go to his current area by 6:30. He only had about an hour to relax and draw. He should have gone to sleep, at least then he would be able to fight back properly. But alas, he didn't, and his current condition was not enough for this. Now if only he didn't have to dodge his sensei's incoming kick. He rolled out the way, barely dodging it. Are you just going to dodge? Enko taunted. Naruto looked at her, getting to his feet. That was the general idea. Naruto panted out, placing his hands on his knees. Enko nodded a little, closing her eyes. And you think that will really work? She asked curiously. I'm hoping so, Naruto said. She hummed a little, watching him. She disappeared before Naruto's eyes, only giving him a second to jump back. It took him 2 seconds to actually preform say action. Too bad it was too slow to avoid taking the knee in the stomach. Naruto coughed out as he flew back. He hit the ground a few seconds later, wishing he never listened to her, and took off his chainmail. You should get up, she let out, swinging her foot at him. Maya jumped, hearing her friend hit the ground again. She closed her eyes, swallowing a little as she started a set of seals. Okay. Snake. Dragon. Rabbit. Dragon ti. Maya's thought process was interrupted when Naruto rolled near her. She looked down at him, hearing him groan out in pain. Naruchan, Naruchan, Naruchan. You can't be laying down during training. Enko said, walking over to them. You'll just keep getting hit, Enko said with a smile. Naruto simply grunted in reply as he tried to get up. His arms shook as he pushed himself up. Fuck, he whimpered out. Maya looked down at him before looking forward. She quickly did the set of seals, gathering her chakra into her chest. Too slow, Enko shouted, running towards him. Maya pivoted quickly, inhaling deeply. Katan, Kamisairu no Jutsu, she thought. A second later she exhaled. A large stream of quick-moving fire shot from her mouth. The fuck? Enko let out surprise, showing on her face a second before the fireball engulfed her. Maya stopped her jutsu, blinking a little. I did it, came Maya's surprised response. Naruto coughed a little, watching as the fire dissipated. Naruto panted, molding as much chakra as he could before gathering it into his arms and legs. He leapt forward, tackling Maya a second before 3 cords of wire rose up, wrapping around the area she was just at. They hit the ground, going into a roll. After a few feet, they stopped with Maya on top of him. He let his arms drop from her before letting his head rest on the ground. Thanks, Naruto let out. You're welcome, and thanks, Maya responded. You okay? She asked. Yeah, I'm great. I'm just really tired and a little bit sore, Naruto said, looking up at her. Maya hummed a little, getting off of him. She glanced around, resting on one knee, trying to spot her abusive sensei. She turned her body completely and spotted her leaning against a tree trunk almost directly to Naruto's left. She was completely unaffected by Maya's attack. Her clothing wasn't even singed. Maya frowned, nimbly jumping over Naruto so he was behind her. She got one knee, drawing a kunai, and waited. Interfering with our little spar? Not satisfied with your new jutsu? Enko asked, a grin plastered on her face. Well, as you can probably tell by now, I got the hang of it already. Maya replied, glaring a little. So yeah, I would like to get in on it. Maya added. Can't we just rest a little? Naruto suggested. Ah, but Naruchan, it was your idea to stay out all night training. Enko replied with a tone of ridicule. I'm sorry, okay, just let me rest a little. Naruto cried. He wasn't actually crying, but he was pretty close to it. Enko kicked hard, really hard, and he didn't know if his body could take any more. He watched as she took on a look of thinking. To give the added effect of it, Enko moved her right hand up and pressed her index finger against her bottom lip. Naruto already knew the answer. He has known her for about 4 years and has been a victim of her anger at least 10 times. He would either have to fight his way out of it or run, and running was not an option. He discreetly dug in his pouch and felt around slowly. He grabbed onto a round object which he figured was his last soldier pill. He was correct. He pulled it out, moving his free hand to tap Maya's foot. Too bad he wasn't watching where his hand was going. Maya jumped a little, feeling 2 fingers come in contact with her butt. Her left eye twitched, a blush adorning her face. Son of a bitch, Maya thought angrily. She had a right to be angry. She was helping his ass, and he finds now a good time to feel her up. In any other situation she would have just beat the shit out of him, but this time she might just leave it to Enko. She felt another tap bit. This time it was at her foot. She glanced at him and looked in his eyes. He mouthed out a sorry before nudging his head a little. She blinked a little before understanding what he wanted. She looked forward at Enko to see her still looking up. She slowly moved her body over so his face was out of direct view. He was glad she didn't explode on him. That time was one of the few times it was an accident. He lifted up his arm slowly and moved the soldier pill into his mouth. He chewed on it, slightly cursing the situation. He needed at least one for later on. That's why he didn't use it. But it was now or never. He didn't want to be accidentally killed. He swallowed it and closed his eyes as he felt the effects. His body didn't feel as heavy anymore and he felt energized, but still sleepy. Thanks, he whispered, only loud enough for Maya to hear. She nodded a little as Enko finally looked at them. She noticed Maya's change of position, mentally smiled. She wouldn't say it out loud, but these kids were excellent. To move in such a way that she didn't notice the movement when they are right in front of her was beyond astounding. But it was time to test out how good these two, or better yet Maya, was. Naruto was out. He wasn't getting back up unless he had a soldier pill or something. She narrowed her eyes a little, grinning. That's why Maya was in front of him. He took it, using her as a shield for him. Well, why not just attack now? I've decided. No resting, she said before dashing at them. Break, Naruto said. They both acted quickly, Maya jumping to her left as Naruto got up and rolled in the direction he was facing. Enko reached the spot between them before jumping after Naruto. It was something he expected. With a single hand seal, 2 puffs of smoke popped up by Naruto's side. 2 clones flew from the smoke, aiming for Enko. Her grin never left her face as she dispatched these 2 clones with a single kick. Naruto made it a first priority to get away from her. The moment his feet touched the ground, he jumped to the left. Enko followed right after him, only to halt her advance as another stream of fire came her way. She glanced at Maya quickly, noticing her sword in hand. She was panting a little. She fired off a B-rank jutsu twice in a row. She knew Maya was a talented kid, the word genius being thrown around a few times, but this is just outstanding. She must have had some training with using katan jutsu, or getting it after 6 tries would just be absolutely nuts. Not to say the jutsu is perfected. Too bad her stamina isn't really up to par. She looked back toward Naruto to find him regrouping. She realized something that she should have noticed before. His sword. He didn't have his sword. Hey brat, pull out your sword, Enko ordered. It was time for Naruto to blink. He didn't forget about his sword, he just didn't think he would need one for training or the mission. He gave a nervous grin. Why? He replied. I want to test the both of you in kenjutsu, she said. I don't need it. I'll be fine with these, he said, drawing out 2 kunai and crossing his arms in front of him. Enko blinked at him, or more specificity, the 2 kunai in hand. They weren't Konoha-made kunai. She actually didn't recognize them, and she had made contact with quite a few ninja. They are a few inches longer than the normal Konoha-made kunai. Each kunai had 3 blades. 2 of the blades were extruding from the flat side of the blade. Where did you get those from? She asked. Naruto blinked, looking at the 2 kunai he had out. Found them, he said. It really wasn't a lie, because he actually did find them, just stuck in his side. Anko gave him a look. It was a look saying, "You must be an idiot to think I'm going to buy that." Naruto grinned at her. "Are we just going to talk or fight?" he asked. She bit the left side of her lip a little. It was something that he found very alluring. His arms draped down a little as he watched her lips. "Naruto!" Maya's shout snapped him out of his daze and he raised his arms back up. It was too late though. Anko had already moved forward, a kunai shooting from her sleeve to her hand. She was on Naruto in 3 seconds flat. Naruto barely had time to move back as she swung her kunai at him. He managed to dodge it, but he couldn't avoid the swift kick to his side. Naruto winced as he was lifted off his feet. He hit the ground hard, instantly moving his hands toward his left side. He was still sore from last night. He looked up at Anko only to see her jump to her left, a sword coming down where she just was. Maya chased after Anko, not even giving a glance at her downed teammate. Anko's smirk was more than enough of an incentive to continue her chase. She caught up with her, giving her a horizontal swipe to which her teacher dodged easily. Anko responded with a quick swung of her kunai. It wasn't unavoidable. Maya proved that by swiftly ducking under it, shifting her hands before swinging her sword back around at her. Anko jumped over the low swing, expecting to see her other student come flying over her. She was right. Almost as soon as she jumped up, Naruto came flying over Maya with a kick. Anko smirked, moving her foot out, aligning it with his. The moment his foot came in contact with hers, she bent her knee a little, getting pushed back. She made eye contact with him, pushing her leg out. Naruto's eyes went wide a second before he was blasted back. He reacted quickly, flipping backward. He landed on the ground, slightly sliding before coming to a stop. He looked towards Anko, watching as she landed away from Maya. He smiled. It was a nice counter. But now he wished he did have his sword. He looked down at the kunai in hand and frowned at them. They were heavier than normal kunai. He felt weird holding them. He shook his head, putting them away and drawing 2 Konoha-made ones. He put his index fingers in the hole of the kunai before spinning it. He was ready now. He blinked, spotting 2 snakes heading straight for him. "Oh shit!" he let out before he was tackled. He watched the snakes fly over him a second before his back hit the ground. "Thanks," he said, knowing it was Maya who was on him. "You're welcome, but stop daydreaming," Maya commanded, looking back at Anko. "I'll try, but you know I can't help thinking about you," Naruto said, grinning. At that, Maya blushed, looking at him. "Now is not the time for that," Maya growled, looking back at Anko. She would never admit it, but sometimes he was pretty good at flirting. Now if he didn't flirt with every cute girl there were, it might actually work against someone. Not her, but someone else. She got up as the 2 snakes retracted back to Anko's sleeve. Naruto got up after her and prepared his kunai. "Ready?" he asked, lightly panting. "Yeah," she replied. Naruto ran forward first, Maya coming right behind him. Naruto didn't have much of a plan, but he was always good at winging it. He reached her, swinging both kunai at once. She took a few steps back, leaning over a bit, giving her stomach a large margin from Naruto's kunai. He watched her, seeing the lightly blurred form on Maya run past his right. He watched her try for a vertical swipe, only to have her blade dodged with a single jump backward. Naruto dashed around the young sword wielder before leaping at Anko. He landed in arm's length of her and spun on 1 foot, swinging his right arm out at her. Anko grinned, taking a step back out of his range. After his first initial swing, she moved up, kicking him in his shoulder, sending him onto his side with a grunt. Anko saw a shadow overhead and looked up quickly. She spotted Maya coming down in a slanted spin. She rolled to the right a second before Maya landed her blade, cutting the ground deeply. That was close, she thought, grinning. She moved quickly, reeling her arm back. Maya's eyes went to Anko before letting go of her sword. She shifted her body, turning towards Anko. She crossed her arms in front of her face as Anko's fist came her way. Maya closed her eyes as her sensei's fist hit her arm. She jerked back as Anko gave her a few jabs. She cracked one eye open, looking through the small opening her arms left. Maya jerked, doubling over as the snake ninja's fist found a home in her stomach. She coughed, saliva flying from her mouth. Next time don't close your eyes," Anko whispered, pulling her fist back. Maya fell to the ground a second later, coughing, wrapping her arms around her stomach. Anko looked towards her left to where she dropped Naruto at. She raised her arms quickly as a foot appeared in her vision. She managed to block it barely, being pushed back in the process. She slid back against a tree, her arms shaking a bit. "Well damn. That hurt like a bitch," she thought, lowering her arms. She looked at him watching as he jumped back a couple of times. Maya tucked underneath his right arm. "Should you really be worried about her?" she asked in a curious and mocking manner. Naruto simply panted, his eyes narrowed, watching his teacher carefully. He was getting a little angry. He didn't like it when Maya was hurt. That was kind of the reason he learned locks. And he sure in the hell didn't like others hurting her. He slowly and carefully kneeled down, not taking his eyes off his purple-haired sensei. He placed her on the ground gently. "Naruto," Maya let out, wheezing. "Relax and wait a little bit. You just got the wind knocked out of you, so you should be fine in a few minutes," he said, standing back up. He took a deep breath, crouching a little. "Ah, I see you're finally ready," Enko said, grinning. Naruto wasn't in the mood for her taunts. He drew the kunai that he put away prior to picking Maya up and held it in front of him. He decided he would defeat her. That was his plan now. He ran forward without hesitation. His movement was that of a zigzag. He watched Enko's eyes follow him easily, something that he always knew. He tossed the kunai into his left hand as he approached her. He watched a smirk appear on her face, a kunai coming into her hand. Her arm rose up before the kunai flew at him. He tilted his head to the side and paid no mind to it as the blade whizzed by him, cutting into his cheek. He was bleeding now, but it didn't matter. He closed in on her, watching as she bent her knees just a little. She would jump, or so he guessed. The question was in which direction. It didn't matter, he would follow. He grabbed onto Maya's katana the moment he reached it. He ripped it from the ground as he passed. He had what he wanted now, he didn't need the kunai. He halted his progress and jumped back, tossing the kunai. He watched her jump away to the right. By the look on her face, he could tell she was not expecting such an action from him. Understandable, after all, he was a rush-in type of fighter. He landed first. Her jump was a little too high. He would take advantage of that. He dashed forward again, aiming for where she would soon land. He channeled his chakra into the blade, spinning quickly. "Soniku Kusa," Naruto whispered out, releasing a wave of chakra. Just as the chakra wave left the blade, he spun again, a little quicker than previously, lowering the katana to the ground before bringing it up in a diagonally, unleashing another wave of chakra. The two invisible waves flew out, the diagonally one cutting the ground, giving the trajectory out. It was a diversion, something Naruto really didn't think of at the time. After all, he had to stop and watch for her next move. It wasn't powerful enough to kill her, just bash her back. He watched his sensei land on the ground, looking specifically at the ground. She glanced at him and grinned, jumping to the right. This time the leap wasn't so high, and the roll on the ground after she landed to add on to it. She got out of the way of both of the waves quite easily, much to his disapproval. He didn't have time to ponder over it, seeing her arms fly up, two kunai flying at him. He swung the blade quickly in a wide arc in front of him. He spun it fast enough so that any onlookers wouldn't be able to see the blade itself. He heard the collision of the kunai with his blade and saw the kunai bounce into the air. He stopped spinning his sword and dashed at Enko, watching as she did the same. She reached him faster than he thought she would, so it was quite a surprise to get a foot in the face. He flew to the right, hitting the ground hard. He went into a roll, purposely dodging the heel kick that came up next. He managed to push himself up off the ground without stopping, something he would later try to learn. He was forced to duck a second later as Enko came at him fast with another kick. He glared hard, coming up from his low position, bringing the sword up fast. Cut through her like butter through bread, but Naruto's wasn't a fool. He jumped to the left as her body was engulfed in smoke. Shuriken rained down on his prior position in droves. Was she trying to kill him now? He landed and turned, scanning the area. He didn't catch where the kunai came from. It didn't worry him, though. There was really no reason to. After all, he had some training for situations like this and a technique to find her. He closed his eyes, molding and gathering chakra into the area between his eyes. He took a deep breath and unleashed the chakra in a dome around him. It was one of the true forms of his chakra wave. She would not be able to hide. He saw it all, everything around him, Maya slowly starting to get up, rocks, trees, flies, beetles, insects in general. It was hard to filter through all of it. It was a technique he barely used because of the strain on the mind. He was told to wait until he was at least 15 before using in a combat situation. He never really understood why and still didn't. Ah, there she was. She was in the bushes behind him. She looked like she just got there. She was good. He didn't hear her move at all. He knew where she was now. He needed a plan to take her down. But what could he do? He wasn't sure what she did before while they fought, but this was a vast step up. He knew that she probably held back, but to this extent. Bullshit. He put such thoughts aside for now. He would need to concentrate. Now that he found her, he had a slight element of surprise on his side. And he would need to use it. He relaxed his body, taken in deep breaths. He focused on her image out of all the images in his mind. It was pretty hard. He would have been better off using his chakra wave. But it had a certain range to it, and it would only show what it hit. It was exactly like a bat's echolocation. There was even a delay from the release of it to the reception. There was none with this. If he had to describe the technique, it like having a dozen or so video cameras around and watching each of the dozen screens on the TV. Having to look at one of the screens, then the next one, back and forth at random intervals of time, and repeating it over and over again. It was hard to focus with it on. He had used it a few times prior, but he didn't remember what happened during it. 1 minute passed, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. She didn't move from her spot. She was just watching him. It was okay. He needed a little time to think, even though the massive headache that was coming didn't really help much. He resisted the urge to rub his temples or the bridge of his nose to soothe it, even if it was just a little bit. But he didn't want to set her off. He felt it, movement at his back. He was about to move only for a hand to grab his arm. There it is, the image of who was behind him. It was Maya. She had finally recovered from the blow. "I see you're up," Naruto said. "Yeah, sorry for the wait. I know where." "Don't say it," Naruto replied quickly. "I've been waiting for her to make a move. I don't want to set her off without a good plan," he said. "Okay, have you got one?" she asked, sliding her hand down to the hilt of her sword. Naruto turned his hand, allowing her to grab the hilt before letting go. "No. Her skill level isn't like what we have experienced before. It's hard to know what she would do and everything," Naruto replied. "You thought she wasn't holding back before?" Maya asked, looking around just for the visual effect. "To tell you the truth, yeah, I did. But this is unreal. She's really something. I'll have to say, if I was the type to be scared, now would be the perfect time for it," he said with a little chuckle. "And that tells me how well our chances are with her," Maya said with a little shake of her head. Maya looked back at him, hearing a sharp intake of breath. "You should release it," she said. Naruto turned his head to her and tilted his head. "How did you guess?" he asked. "It's not a guess. I can literally feel your chakra all over my body right now," Maya said. "And it feels weird," she said. To her it was very weird. It was like having Naruto caressing her whole body without touching her. It wasn't a bad weird, just something she wasn't used to. She actually didn't even know he could do this. She only witnessed her mother teaching her older brother it. And that felt weirder than this. "Sorry. I'll have to decline that," Naruto said, pausing slightly. His headache was really getting to him. "I can only sense chakra enough to get by. I'm not as advanced as you are with it. This is the only way for me to keep total track of her," Naruto explained. "Don't overdo it then," she cautioned. "I'll try not to," he replied with a small smile. With her here, he might be able to come up with a good plan. But that would only be if she didn't. Fuck, she's moving," he said. "Break forward," he said quickly, moving forward. Maya listened, following his command, sensing Anko circle to the left. Both kunai and shuriken flew at them, striking the ground where they just were. He had time to open his eyes as Anko appeared before him. Having her image appear in his mind and watching her also was not something he really expected, but he didn't care. He blocked her first punch, already deciding to just defend for now. He watched carefully as a flurry of punches came at him. Face, blocked. Side, blocked. Leg, blocked. Rinse and repeat. She was fast as hell. It was hard to fend off her punches, but somehow he made do. He went low, falling for a fucking feint. He was pissed the second her fist bashed right into his face. He was lifted off his feet for the seemingly 100th time that morning. He hit the ground hard, blood coming from his lip. He was hurting right now, his whole body was just screaming at him. Mainly his head. It felt like it would explode at any minute now, and getting hit was not helping in the least bit. He looked up just in time to see Maya intercept Anko from her course. He shook his head, closing his eyes again. He needed to rely on only one form of sight. He stood up slowly as he took as many calming breaths as possible. The moment he was on his feet, he dashed forward toward Anko and Maya. Maya had just ducked under a kick when he reached her. He leapt over her, his right arm cocked back. He threw a hook, aiming at her chin, hoping to any kami that would help that he hit. They were on vacation, it seems. Naruto felt his hand hit nothing, the image of her moving already showing in his mind. He heard the slight shuffle of her coat as she threw a counter-punch at him. Ah! He let out his body, jerking violently at the impact. His body was thrown back, but it was okay. He was used to this by now. Sad to say, but he was done. Even with the soldier pill, his body couldn't take it anymore. From early this morning to now, all of this was too much for him. That wouldn't stop him from giving one last attack though. He spun his body once, gathering everything he needed. He opened his eyes and locked onto Enko. He had to aim carefully and strike before Maya had the chance to rise again. He thrust his right arm out fast, unleashing his forged needle. Surprise wasn't the only thing going through her mind as she was flung back against a tree. She heard it crack on her back, though the pain was mild compared to the agony her chest was in. She hadn't forgotten about that move, she just didn't have it in her mind at the time. So when she watched him throw his straight, she only thought that he might have misjudged the distance between the two. Oh, how she hated being wrong. She hated being in pain for being wrong even more. Her eyes was a little blurry now. She might have blacked out for a few seconds at the initial hit. She blinked it away and looked forward, only seeing the tip of a sword in her face. She followed it to the wielder and frowned. Yeah, it was Maya, and she was glaring kind of hard. "You lose," she said. Enko sighed heavily before taking a look at Naruto. He wasn't moving, and that was a bad sign, especially since she planned to do the mission tonight. Maybe she had gone overboard with this lesson of who's the boss. Nah, that was completely impossible. The blade poked her neck, drawing her attention back to Maya. "Do you surrender?" she asked, confident in their victory. She probably could have gotten out, but her chest hurt so damn much. She should force Naruto into giving her a chest massage. Yeah, make her feel a little bit better. The blade pressed against her a little harder. "Yeah, you two won this," Enko said begrudgingly. At that, Maya moved her sword, signing to the world as if a rock was taken off her shoulders. Rock on her shoulders. Good idea. Enko grinned as Maya sneezed. "Bless you," Enko said, cheerful as ever. Maya looked at her before turning away. "Thank you," she replied before walking over to the down genin. "You're welcome, cheater," Enko said, mumbling the last part. Maya nearly halted her walking at the very absurd thing that came out of her sensei's mouth. She didn't though, and she would get a high five from Naruto later on. She reached him and knelt down by his side. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked. She was actually worried he took a real beating. He didn't answer, so she grabbed his side and watched him jerk suddenly. Oh, he would have so many bruises later on. She pulled him onto his back and took a look at his face. Blood was slowly leaking from his left nostril, mixing in the overflowing sweat from his face and the blood from his cheek. He wasn't hit in the nose though. "How is he?" Enko's voice came out from behind. Maya didn't glance back, she was used to being snuck up on. "He seems to be unconscious. He probably passed out from your last hit. After all, you have been beating him senseless all morning. I would have been surprised if he was still up after this," Maya said, wiping the blood from his nose. It wasn't just that, it looked like he used up quite a bit of chakra, but it wasn't enough to kill him. Enko hummed a little, thinking about it. "I see. He might be out of commission at least until tomorrow," she said. Okay, you watch him for a bit. I'm gonna go get something." "All right," Maya replied. She didn't need to know where she was going. Currently, she just wanted to relax a little. Her stomach still hurt. Naruto opened his eyes slowly, the haze of sleep quickly disappearing. The first sight he saw was leaves blocking out the lights of the sun. It was about noon now, or so he guessed. He shifted a little and his head was ringing like a hammer striking a bell. He moved his hands up slowly to his head, or so he tried. He stopped, feeling his body's protest. His body still hurt like hell. "You're up," a voice called to him. He blinked as Maya's face came into his line of sight. "Yeah," he replied. He felt a shift under his head and glanced to his right. He saw her breast and stomach and realized his head was lying on her lap. He looked back up at her as she touched his face. "How are you feeling?" she asked. It took a second for her question to register in his mind. "Hurt." He wanted to say he was fine, but his head was hurting a lot. Maya grinned at that. "I bet," she said. "Sorry, there isn't much I can do. I'm no medic," she said with a slight laugh. "It's fine," he said, squeezing his eyes shut. "Okay, sunlight and headache don't mix." "What's wrong?" she asked, concern showing up on her face. "Head pain, real bad." He replied. Humph. I told you to shut it off, came her apathetic reply. Naruto simply nodded a little. He didn't want to argue about anything right now. He felt 2 fingers on each one of his temples, causing him to open his eyes. Wah! He let out. Hush, I want to try something, Maya replied quickly. He felt her fingers rub his temples in a circular motion. Naruto was about to reply back when a strange sensation overcame his senses. Felt odd, not really good, not really bad, just odd. But the pain was gone for now. He closed his eyes, allowing her to continue. He felt something change dramatically and he gasped slightly. Felt good as hell. How does that feel? She asked. He couldn't speak currently. The pain in his head was gone and this pleasant feeling was filling him. He only smiled slightly, moving his right leg up. Maya laughed a little. I'll take that as it feels good, Maya-sama, Maya said, grinning. Naruto nodded a little, breathing softly. She continued doing it, thinking about the technique he was using. She didn't know it or the chakra wave he used. If she was right, that was the version Naruto came up with. She knew how it worked, but Naruto never told her the details on how to actually get it to work. Yeah, she tried herself, but it never came out just right. And the sensory dome he used earlier, she was told she wouldn't need it and she wasn't really interested in learning after what happened to her brother when he used it. Naruto was different though, he was like her, just not from her clan. Why would they teach him something like that? It was strange to her, but she wasn't really allowed to question her father. Naruto, don't use that anymore, she said. At that, Naruto opened his eyes and stared at her. He let out. The Ryu no gone. Don't use it again, she ordered, stopping her ministrations. The headache came back fast, too fast. It hit him like a rock and he grimaced just as quickly. Maya blinked, adding chakra into her fingertips before starting again. Naruto moaned in what seemed like pleasure before looking back up again. Why not? It's a technique with so many uses, Naruto said slowly. But the overall perks of it doesn't outweigh the risks of it, Maya replied. Maya-chan, my senses aren't as good as yours, Naruto said. This she knew, she was a very good sensor. She was used to locating people fairly easy. Naruto had a hard time recognizing the differences in the signatures. Being able to use it will help when we are guarding something or are in situations like the one we were in with Hibi-sensei, he said. She frowned at him, slightly cursing her late father. Naruto, you don't need that anyway. If anything, I'll be with you, so sensing someone in hiding will be my job. Besides that, it was a technique of preparation. Why he taught it to you doesn't make sense, she explained. Naruto blinked at that. That was news to him. He was told only that it would help since he was ordered to keep his eyes closed. What the hell was it preparation for anyway? Not to mention your eyes work fine. There is no reason for you to even rely on your chakra wave, she added. She was adding stuff on now. He liked using his chakra wave. And he kinda did need it, if only a little. Walking around with a henjon would suck to high heaven, especially if people noticed it. But what if I'm not around you? Naruto said. Then always stay around me, Maya replied quickly. At that, Naruto blushed and she saw it instantly. I didn't mean it in that way. I mean, she was stumbling over her words now, not sure how to rephrase it. Now Naruto knew exactly what she meant by it. He wasn't crazy enough to think she meant what others would think. The only reason she probably thought he didn't was the blush that appeared on his face. And she just stopped her ministrations and the headache was back again. He reached up, quickly grabbing her hands, which she had repositioned on her chin. She blinked down at him as he moved her hands back to his temples. She understood what he wanted and started to massage his temples again. I know what you meant, he said. But you know we might not have a choice about that, he replied. Maya frowned at him again. He was trying to find a loophole out of it. Why do you want to use it so much? She asked, ignoring his statement. Naruto blinked at it, he wasn't expecting that. I think it's the fact that I keep the fact that I can actually see a secret, Naruto said, thinking about it. Without people knowing, it gives me an advantage and I feel cool with my forehead protector on. Naruto whined the last part. Maya shook her head a little. She got the first part, but the second was completely unnecessary. This would go on forever. She would have to get him to compromise. Okay, how about this? As long as I'm near you and fighting by your side, you rely on me to sense people around us, Maya suggested. Naruto pouted a little, thinking it over. Okay, I agree. But this only applies to the Ryu no Gon technique, Naruto said. That works for me, she said with a slight sigh. It was something and she didn't have to worry about any sensory overload. Maya-chan, Naruto called. Maya looked at him, she didn't know why he insisted on calling her with that honorific. Yeah, she replied curiously. 2 questions. First one is, how is your stomach? Does it still hurt? He asked, his eyes flashing with concern. Maya huffed at him, looking up. Nope, I'm not hurt at all. You think she could hurt me that much? She asked, slightly cocky. Naruto grinned at her, she seemed to have a little bit of a problem with Anko, but it was okay. Okay. Second question is, when did you learn how to use your chakra like this? He asked. Naruto was genuinely curious about it. The application of this could go so far, especially if he was feeling on their bodies. He made sure not to let his grin appear on his face. Well, Shin winded up in a situation like this, Maya said, looking up. At that, Naruto frowned deeply. He used the same technique as you for an extended period of time, maybe 10 or 20 minutes if I remember correctly. It was basic training, dodging and counter kunai with his eyes closed. Maya explained solemnly. After it was over, he collapsed, his nose and eyes bleeding a little, and he had a massive headache, she said with a little laugh. He walked me through doing it since I wanted to help him out a little. Naruto took all of it in, looking away. He lasted 10 to 20 minutes. Naruto wasn't even able to last 5 when he did it. How did he know? Her dad made sure to tell him so. He sighed a little, forcing himself to sit up. It was a comfortable spot too. But he would give it up. He didn't want to remind her of her brother for now. I feel better now, Naruto said. It was a lie. His head started thumping again, just not as hard as before, which he was grateful for. No, she said quickly, grabbing his head. Wah! He let out as she forced him back down on her lap. Maya placed her index and middle finger back onto his temples before starting to massage them again. Don't move for a little while. Anko gave me instructions to make sure you relax for the rest of today, Maya ordered. Naruto stared up at her, pouting. But she's not here right now, Naruto said, huffing. Maya stared down at him. Even so, you are still very much injured, Maya replied. Ah, I'm fine. Ugh, Naruto let out, pain surging through his side. Maya had decided to show him just how sore he was, with a slight tap to his side. The side he got stabbed in, the side Anko took special care to kick for just about 3 hours, the side that she punched that knocked him the fuck out. He glared up at her. Really, really hard. See, she said, throwing back a knowing look. You are still sore. You need to rest, she said. Besides, you didn't listen to her once and she did this. What do you think will happen next time? Maya asked. I'll bend her over and spank her, Naruto whispered out. Yeah, he didn't know if she was around and he wasn't gonna accidentally speak out loud for her to hear and hurt him. Yeah, he was almost fearless, he wasn't stupid. Maya shook her head at him. Yeah. For some odd reason I actually want to see that happen, Maya said, squinting, glancing to her left. She didn't know why that seemed appealing to her currently, but it was. She had to start wondering if Naruto's perverted mind was tainting her. Or maybe it was the fact that Anko might be humiliated in front of her. And in pain. That might be it. She was actually still pissed about being punched in the stomach like that. Oh well, that probably would never happen anyway. She looked back at Naruto to see him staring at her in a strange manner. What? She let out. Naruto shook his head a little, wondering if he was affecting her. Not that it would be a bad thing, maybe. How would he know? By the way, how long did you sleep last night? She asked. How do you know I went to sleep? He asked, raising an eyebrow. She stared at him and shook her head. How wouldn't I notice? You didn't move at all, especially when I flipped you over, she said. Naruto blinked at that. I was wondering what was the point of that? He asked. I don't know. I figured I'd make sure you were asleep before I changed, she said, shrugging slightly. He raised an eyebrow at her before he remembered something. Question. Why were you wearing my boxers? He asked. She looked at him, blinking. She looked up in the air as if thinking of an answer. Took a minute for her to finally look down at him. I wanted to try them on, she said, grinning. Naruto blinked at her before raising an eyebrow, confused. So why did you sleep in them? He asked. They felt comfortable, she said nonchalantly. Naruto stared for a second, blinking at her. Yeah. Let's not make that a habit, Naruto said. Sure, she said with a blush and nervous grin. Naruto let out a sigh before closing his eyes. Hey! You never answered my question, Maya said frowning. Oh, an hour tops, Naruto said not opening his eyes. Maya stared down at him thinking it over. He slept a total of 3 hours today then. He was out for 2, which was pretty cool. Even Maya thought he would be out for a lot longer. And he slept an hour last night. Go back to sleep, she said suddenly. Naruto opened his eyes and glanced up at her. I'm not tired anymore. My body just hurts, he replied. Even so, it's not good for you to only get 3 hours of sleep, she said. Naruto stared up at her blinking. You're not planning on doing something to me, right? Naruto said. Why else would she want him to sleep? She must have had some payback planned. No, I have nothing planned. You just have to be ready for tonight. You don't want to sleep on the job, do you? She asked, grinning. Naruto nodded slightly. She was right about that, and he was lying when he said he wasn't tired. Okay. Wake me in 2 hours, please. That should be enough for me, he said. She took her hands off his temples and nodded. 2 hours it is, she said. He nodded, closing his eyes. He was comfortable, really comfortable. And hey, his headache was gone. Maya stared down at him, listening to his shallow breathing. Sometimes he got to sleep fast, other times he would pretend. She knew it, she pretended too, and she was better at it than him. She just had trouble with spotting when he was pretending. She hummed a little, leaning back against the tree. This is annoying. So far she counted 3 techniques he shouldn't know, or better yet, he shouldn't need. The jutsu she stopped him from using on Sasuke 2 days ago was one her brother came up with. The second was the Ryu no Gon. That technique was specific to those clan members who have the Ryugen, dormant or activated. Though she have really heard of anybody from her clan activating it young except for her brother. But he was a special case. The third technique was one she saw him use when training alone. She first saw her brother use it, and when she asked about it, he told her it was something she would never have to worry about. She glanced back at Naruto, frowning at him. Why was he taught it? It didn't make sense to her. She sighed, putting it out of her mind. It didn't matter at this point. She smiled down at Naruto, placing her hands in his hair. Her smile turned into an evil grin. She was going to get bored quickly, so why not have some fun? After all, 2 hours was a long time to wait. Anko took a deep breath. She has been away from her 2 students for just about 3 hours. Why? One, her chest still stung. She was quite confused about it. But it wasn't anything she couldn't endure. The second was something else was pressing on her mind. When she got the mission, she was ordered to watch Naruto specifically. She saw he was serious, so she really didn't ask any questions. But her curiosity of why was getting to her. Now that she lost him for 1 night, without any type of supervision, meaning whatever he did was up for him to tell or not. And after looking at his chainmail, she realized the differences in the broke links near his chest and the ones at his sides. She inspected each one carefully after she left and found out that those 2 links near his side was different from the others. The others were sliced, but they had marks on them that signified they were hit multiple times in order to do them. The ones on the side was clean, 1 thrust, 1 hit, and it was pierced, meaning it was done by 2 different people. To her, it seemed like Naruto might have done the second one set on the chest. So who did the other ones? If she pictured it on him, the 2 at the side would be just above his kidneys. That wasn't good. That probably could have killed him. After discovering this, she decided to find where he supposedly trained at. If anything, just to find his shirt. A training ground can be staged to look like it was used, so she wouldn't really find anything useful from the destruction he caused. But his shirt would allow her to see if what she suspects is right. The problem is she has been looking for just about 3 hours and hasn't found anything. Where the hell could he have possibly gone? She has patience, a lot of it. You had to if you were a good ninja. But this was ridiculous. There was no tracks, no traces, nothing. There was no way in hell he was good enough to erase his tracks like this. It just didn't make any sense. He would have to have literally trained on top of a pond or something to erase his tracks as complete. Anko stopped and turned a little, remembering the place where she found them a few days ago. Could he have? She narrowed her eyes, turning a little to the east. She should check now, shouldn't she? She smiled. For some odd reason, she had a feeling it was there. For where she started to the little area where they were before, it took her 20 minutes to find it. And to her surprise, the area was in complete disarray. If he called this training, he was completely insane. This looks like a raging bull came and destroyed the place. At the moment, she wished she could come up with a better description for the place, but damn, no words came to mind. Trees were completely uprooted, like he fucking grabbed it, ripped it straight from the ground. Bushes were cut up a lot. The ground around the pond shredded like cheese. And she didn't want to mention the animals she saw dead around. She blinked, so maybe he did do some training. So that might be the reason he was so easy to pound on earlier. She walked forward, looking around for any sign of that shirt. It was pretty hard considering how screwed up the area was. Why did he leave that tree in the pond? She shook her head. Her student was nuts but cool at the same time. Took her a few minutes to inspect the entire area. She stopped on top of the tree that was dunked in the water, frowning. Where the hell could that shirt be? He didn't burn it, did he? She looked down at the water, smiled at her reflection. It took her a second to see past her reflection deep into the water. She blinked, seeing his light blue shirt that he wore the previous day at the very bottom of the pond. She smiled, finding her target. Anko dived down, not caring in the least about being wet. She swam down quickly and reached for the shirt. She didn't even reach halfway down before she noticed something. There was a tag on his shirt. An explosive tag. Underwater. Oh fuck. It exploded a second later, causing a huge eruption of water. Anko landed on the ground and glared hard. She was angry. She was pissed. She loved Naruto, not in that way, he cute and everything, but he's just a kid. Maybe when he's 15 and needs practical training in the sexual arts, she's teach him, but yeah, as she was saying, she was gonna kick his ass. Kick his ass hard. So hard he won't be able to walk. After all, you know what they said, once you piss off Anko, you won't be able to walk until next year. And so far she was 10 for 10 with making that happen. Let's see if she could make it 11. Naruto opened his eyes at a light shake. He blinked a couple of times before closing his eyes. Maya was looking at him, and he already made the same mistake twice on this mission. He didn't want to repeat it again. After all, he didn't know exactly when his eyes would change, and he didn't need her seeing it. He sent out a wave of chakra, getting the image of her slightly over him. He turned his head, yawning a little. It passed 2 hours already? He asked, sitting up. He felt a lot better than before. He wasn't tired anymore, and his body wasn't as sore. Now this was sparing conditions. Yeah, the past 2 hours. Maya said, watching him, holding in a laugh. Yeah, she screwed with his face royally. She put mud on his cheeks in a grand design. It was a round face that looked like that of a teddy bear on his right cheek. On his left was a peace sign. And finally she gave him a mustache and goatee. She grinned at him, reaching to her back and patting herself on the shoulder. Naruto suddenly turned to her, and she quickly lost her grin. Hibi-sensei didn't come back yet? He asked. Nope. She has been away for like 4 hours. Maya said, trying her hardest not to laugh. He looked completely stupid with it on his face. She watched him open his eyes and stare at her. What? She let out with a nervous smile. He was silent for a moment. He realized his eyes were normal for now, so there was no point in hiding them. He felt a little odd, but he didn't know what it was. He had a feeling she did something, but accusing her would lead nowhere. She was a pretty good prankster, not as good as him, mind you, but pretty good. He taught her all she knows, so he knew she did something. He could see it in her beautiful eyes. He tilted his head at her, biting his lip a little. He watched her look at his lips before her smile grew. Yeah, she did something all right, but what was it? He saw her look down at his chin, studying it for a little bit. Then he felt her hand swoop under him face. He blinked, it was pretty fast, and because of the sudden motion he couldn't absolutely see what her hand caught. What did you do? He asked. She shook her head, fast grinning. Nothing at all, she said quickly. Naruto narrowed his eyes, she already gave herself away. Now it was time to find out what she did. He reached up to his face before something caught his notice. Naru-chan, came the sing-song voice of Anko. She sounded sweet and happy for some reason. Maya looked at her, already sensing her when she came. His eyes shifted to her, and he saw her anger-filled eyes. Yes? He asked, slightly put off from her. He watched her for a second as she studied his face. The anger filtered from her eyes quickly before she busted out laughing, pointing at him. What? He asked a second before Maya herself started laughing. Naruto looked between the two of them, frowning. What's so funny? He asked, his voice slight rising. Look at your face, Anko shouted out, her eyes watering. Naruto stared at her before glancing at Maya as she pounded on the ground. Naruto quickly took off his forehead protector and looked at his reflection. Naruto I twitched as his head slowly went to Maya. He moved his right hand from the sash of the bandana and slowly wiped the mud from his face. He stared at her, making the most threatening face he could come up with. Oh! I was trying to hold back, but you have just brought it on. I declare war on you, Maya-chan, he shouted, standing up quickly, pointing at her. At this it became silent. He watched as a dark smile spread across her face. She stood staring in his eyes, the shadows her hair giving her an even darker look. Bring it on, Whiskers. I'm the best there is, she said, accepting the challenge. Naruto's eyes twitched as he gritted his teeth. Anko watched, feeling a lot of tension. You just brought down the storm that is Naruto Uzumaki-sama. Prepare to be defeated, Databeo, Naruto shouted out, excited. Naruto grabbed his mouth a second later, staring at Maya. She blinked before smiling at him with a little chuckle. You still say that? She let out, grinning. Naruto's mouth twitched. For the last few years, he has been watching himself when it came to that. He had to make sure he was in control of himself, but every once in a while he would let it out. He removed his hands from his mouth and glared. So what? I'll kick your ass, he shouted out angrily. He wasn't really angry, just peeved. He himself didn't care about it, but he felt self-conscious about it the longer he hung out with them. Oh, bring it on. I'll love to pay you back for last night, she said, grinning. Anko stared at the two as they glared at each other. She saw lightning collide between their eyes and blinked. She rubbed her eyes a little and stared back at them to make sure she didn't see what she thought she saw. She moved up to them and placed her hand on both of their heads. Okay, enough for now, she said. Both Maya and Naruto looked at her, Naruto's eye twitching a little. Maya quickly moved Anko's hand from her head, frown a little. She didn't like people's hands on her head. How are you feeling? Anko asked, looking into Naruto's eyes. I'm better now. Want to try and kick my ass again? He asked. This time he was prepared, he was rested and knew of her abilities. He would win this time. Anko's right eyebrow rose up. She would have smirked at him and accepted if her attitude didn't disappear with Maya's prank. Nah, I would hurt you too much, she said coolly. Naruto crossed his arms, puffing his cheeks. I would like to ask you about the type of training you did last night and about your shirt, Anko added. Her mind went back to focus, she needed to know. Naruto blinked at her before nodding. It was a light workout until I summoned my clones, Naruto said. For some odd reason they took it serious when I told them to come at me to kill. I mean, one of them dropped a fucking tree on me, Naruto said, his face scrunching up. At that Maya chuckled. He didn't know whether the fact that a tree fell on him on the fact that it hurt that made her laugh. But he shook it off. Then I went overboard and started using my blade jutsu. And my shirt ended up underwater, he said, adding the last bit as an afterthought. How did that happen? Maya asked before Anko could get anything out. Naruto looked at her and frowned. Well, Shadow Clone number 1, though it was smart to tag my shirt, forgetting the fact that if I die so does he. So I took it off and put it on a tree branch. I think it was on the tree before it was dropped a few seconds later. But I found out the tag was a dud, Naruto said. Anko narrowed her eyes at this. That shit was no dud. How did you come up with that conclusion? She asked. Naruto looked back at her and grinned. Well, because Maya-chan and I had a little bet riding on if an explosive tag could light up underwater. And I found out it did. I lost a lot of money that day. Anyway, when the tag didn't blow up, I figured it was a dud and kicked their asses, Naruto said with a fist pump and a smile. His clones were assholes. Anko stared at him, taking everything in. She already knew how to tell he was lying, but there were no signs here. Then the question is, why did it explode? Why did you leave your shirt in the water? She asked. Naruto shrugged at that. I didn't feel like getting it, Naruto replied. Why? What happened? Naruto asked, curiosity already setting in. Don't worry about it, Anko said quickly, looking away. Naruto blinked at her and tilted his head. Now he was very curious, he wanted to know what happened. Anyway, I've decided we shouldn't wait to do this. Tonight we will do the mission. We will get in and out, Anko said. All right, they both replied. But first I need to talk to you too, Anko said. They both looked at each other. Sit, she said. They followed her words and sat down, both with their legs crossed. Anko looked at the two of them before sliding her jacket off and rolled it up in her arms over her chest. She sat down with her legs crossed in front of them. She let her arms drop and watched Naruto's eyes go straight to her breast. Understandable for a couple of reasons. One, he was a young boy going through puberty. Secondly, she didn't have a bra on. And finally, her nipples were poking through her netting. She looked at Maya to see her eyes staring straight into hers. Good, at least one of them is focused. She watched as Maya elbowed Naruto, getting his attention back to her and not her body. Anko drew a kunai from her pouch and brought it forward, stabbing it into the ground. She moved it quickly, cutting the ground, making the character for ninja. They both looked down at it before looking at each other. Naruto raised an eyebrow. He really did hope this wasn't a lecture. He so hated lectures. He would rather stare at her breast for a while, and that might be what he would do if she started. "Are you two ninja?" she asked suddenly. They both looked back at her before looking back at each other. "Yeah," Maya let out first. "I thought we've been through this. I'm a ninja swordsman," Naruto said, frowning. She gave them both a blank look before pointing her sword. "From what I gather, you two aren't in the least bit ninja," Anko said. "What?" "Check the forehead protector," Naruto said, pointing to his head. Maya stayed quiet at that. There was no need to argue. She would let Anko have her words. "Oh? You really think so?" Anko said, gazing into his eyes. Naruto frowned a little, not sure what to say. "I've seen it already. From your movements, your fighting style, your eyes. You two love confrontation. Love to fight needlessly," Anko started. "I didn't think fighting was needless," Maya said. Anko turned her eyes to her, drawing a circle around the symbol. "You think like a samurai, and they don't usually live long," Anko said. Maya blinked at that. "A ninja is usually outnumbered, the underdog, the underestimated. Even in our time this rings true," she said, glancing at Naruto. Naruto hummed at that, crossing his arms. "It rings true even more for the ones who are doing assassination missions. We are rarely up against even odds. Fighting how you two have been will get you killed. Maybe not now, maybe not in the next mission, but it will get you killed," she explained. Naruto opened his mouth to speak, only for Anko to raise her hand up. "Let me finish," she said. Naruto nodded at her, closing his mouth. "A ninja must seek to fight in a way that winning remains a possibility. Invisibility is one of those ways. It is hard for an enemy to fight what he cannot see. A ninja must be a master of strategy," Anko explained. "But I am a master of strategy," Naruto whined out. "Not from what I seen," Anko shot back at him. His eyes twitched at the insult, yet he said nothing. A ninja is not supposed to be above hiding, above using trick and deception, above stabbing somebody in the back, above poisoning them. "But I can see that you feel you are," she said calmly, her eyes displaying her seriousness. "Instead of fleeing or hiding, you stand your ground like a moron and fight against tipped odds." She was staring solely into Naruto's eyes. He didn't look away, he stared back at her. Not once has the thought that he made a mistake crossed his mind, and he won't ever think so. The meaning of the word ninja is one who remains alive, one who preserves his life, one who plans and fights, adds struggles through any circumstance no matter how difficult, and remains standing at its conclusion, she said, tapping her kunai in the middle of the character. "I understand," Maya said, nodding, drawing both of their attention to her. "But it's kind of hard to change battle tactics on the fly. We know ninjutsu, yes, and know of tactics that a shinobi should use, but using tactics such as those when we have been so thoroughly trained to fight head-to-head is pretty hard. Even if we started, we would revert back to fighting the way we were trained," Maya explained. Anko looked at her, nodding. "It's good you understand. I will thoroughly beat those lessons out of you," Anko said, smiling. Maya stared at her before nodding understanding. Naruto, on the other hand, frowned. He was a little iffy about it. He was saved by his training against Zabuza. He didn't want to change his style completely. After all, Anko was a slave driver, and if he focused all his time on ninja tactics, how would his swordsmanship increase? "And just because I'm training you to be more like ninjas doesn't mean you have to give up your swordsman nature," she said, as if reading Naruto's mind. "I will have to teach you when to actually fight like that. Assassination missions aren't the right time," she said quickly. They nodded at her understanding. They both knew what assassination meant. It was to get in, get the target, and get out without anyone realizing. "Question," Maya let out. "Yeah," Anko let out, looking into her eyes. "Why did the old man allow you to take us on this mission? This has to at least be for a team of Chunin. Why did he give it to a newly formed team?" she asked. Anko hummed out a little, tapping the tip of the kunai on the ground. It was a good question. One she knew the answer to but didn't want to tell them outright. "Why do you think he sent you out?" Anko asked. Naruto looked over to Maya. Really, he didn't have a clue as to why. He He figured Anko was really good with words. The first thought I had that this was a way to get us to stop relying on Kenjutsu, but I figured it wouldn't matter how we killed somebody. My next thought was he wanted us to learn and train more in the art of stealth, but if that's the case then we could have just stayed in Konoha while you taught us. The only thing that comes to mind is that he wanted us to experience what a mission where we would need to rely on such tactics. Maya explained. Anko nodded, taking in everything that she said. She was right for the most part, but there was a little extra that she did catch. You got some of it. But it's not necessary to know why he has us doing it. Anko said. We have accepted, so everything else is an afterthought until the mission is over. Maya nodded at her. She knew it wasn't really the right time to ask but wanted to try anyway. Now I want to discuss some tactics that can be used, Anko said. At that, Naruto tuned her out. He loved her voice. Even when she's angry she has a voice that could always keep his attention. Problem was he hated lectures of all kinds even if it was as beneficial to his learning. He just couldn't pay attention for more than a minute, and the fact her breast was exposed like that wasn't helping. Strange thing is he never once got a glimpse of her nipples before. It was strange, to tell you the truth. He never once saw any indication of any bindings, and she was always moving, so how in the hell did she do that? Should he ask? Would it be appropriate to ask? Why are her nipples hard? Would she be mad if he grabbed them? Naruto didn't even have time to jerk back when a kunai came at him. It stopped poking at his neck as he looked down, his eyes open wide. See, that's what you can do when you use one's emotional state against them, Anko said, looking at Maya. Naruto simple blinked. He wasn't exactly sure what just happened, but he figured she used her body to attract his attention so she could show Maya something. He frowned. It wasn't his fault he was attracted to her breast. Maya nodded at him and frowned. Isn't that bad for us then? She asked. Anko blinked at that before staring at Naruto. Naruto blinked, confused a little. It wasn't like people could just agitate him in battle. Damn. Well, thank goodness this is our first mission and there are no women around, Anko said. Naruto waited for a chuckle, a giggle or a laugh after it. There was none. How do we fix it then? Maya asked. Whoa, 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 whoa. Naruto let out quickly, his hands in front of him. Let's stop right there. There is no way I'm letting anything about me get fixed. Besides, there is nothing broken, Naruto said. They both stared at him without saying a word. In Anko's opinion, there was nothing wrong with him. His perverted side made him extremely fun at times, so there was nothing to fix about it. But on missions, to have him let his guard down because a female is attractive was not something she wanted. After all, she could have killed him twice today because of that. Maya, on the other hand, just thought he was lying his ass off. Naruto would be way better without his perverted streak. She really didn't care much, but she would not like to watch him die because of a half-naked chick. It will actually be hard to do, Anko said, looking at Maya. She let out, actually wondering why. Well, we don't want to scar him, and we might wind up making his perverseness worse, Anko said. When you say scar, Maya started. Naruto looked at her, eyes wide and his jaw dropping. Well, it will pretty much mess him up for life. Anko started indulging her. It would probably make him afraid to be near woman for the rest of his life. At least that was the way my thought process went, Anko said. Naruto frowned, turning to look at her. Could we? Naruto stood up, interrupting Maya. That's my cue to leave, he let out, turning. Naruto, sit, Anko said quickly. Nope. Have to go to the bathroom, Naruto said before walking forward. Truth was he just held it for a while. It was a perfect time to use the excuse. He didn't need to hear anymore. It was stupid anyway. He would not fall so easily to a trap like that in battle. Anko was just a different case. He knew her for a while and she was quite the looker. Fine, come back in 5, Anko shouted at him. He waved his hand, acknowledging it. Hopefully it would be over that topic. Wow. I was just joking, Maya said, looking after him. Naruto didn't walk too far. After all, she did say to be back in 5. After going behind a tree and relieving himself, he walked a little bit further, fixing his pants. He let out a sigh before stretching his arms out. He was following just about everything she said and understood her concern, but it was something that she didn't need to be concerned about. He could get out of any situation with his shadow clones. Oh well, Hibi-sensei is Hibi-sensei. He let his arms drop to his sides, stopping, glancing around the area. Something was around. He had an acute feeling about this. He didn't hear anything and didn't see anything, but he knew something was there. It was strange. He felt like he was being watched, but at the same time felt like nothing was around him. He stood there waiting, breathing shallowly, waiting for anything to happen. For minutes passed by as the tension surrounding Naruto increased. He was probably being paranoid, but he was pretty sure something or someone was around. Suddenly, an intense burning sensation reached his eyes. He grunted out, bending over slightly, his right hand coming to his face. He felt the change of his eyes as his vision changed slightly. This was the reason why he kept his eyes covered. "Motherfucker," he forced out silently. He reached up slowly and pulled his forehead protector down over his eyes, closing them at the same time. The sensation was still there, but it was less powerful now. He let out a sigh, straightening his back. He frowned slightly, realizing the feeling was completely gone. He turned his head around. He frowned before sending out a few chakra waves. After the images of the surrounds came back to him, he found nothing out of the ordinary. He shrugged, pushing it to the back of his mind. There was no need to worry. He walked forward back towards his team. It passed 5 minutes already, but it didn't matter. He wondered how long she would give her lecture. It was late now, around 8 o'clock. Naruto rested his head on his arms, facing the boy across from him. It was weird. He saw him before, but he didn't know who he was. His chakra radar gave him enough detail about the boy to know that he looked a little like Tsunami. He was probably her little brother. They had finished eating like 10 minutes ago, and his stare was annoying. So what if he flirted a little with his older sister? She has to find a guy sometime, and who's better than himself? No one, that's who. He would have said something to the boy, but every time he tried he was kicked by his silver-haired teammate. He moved his head towards Sakura, who was standing looking at a picture on the wall. She was being a little nosy, if you asked him. It wasn't their place to inspect their client's personal stuff. He already knew her question was coming up soon. He turned and got the image of Aya and Maya casually talking. Enko was upstairs, that he knew. Kakashi was sitting watching everyone. Sasuke was brooding, looking like he had trained a while. The emo fucker. Tsunami was washing dishing, and that little boy was still freaking glaring at him. "Hey, why do you have a torn picture on the wall?" There it was, Sakura's nosy question. Why did she have to be a smart idiot? Naruto took the time to raise his forehead protector up, genjutsu already on his eyes. He wanted to see the impact of her question on the three of them. He had seen the picture when Maya dragged him out before, but he had enough sense not to ask. All three of the residents perked up, but not in a good way. It was kind of a depressing atmosphere. Inari-kun was staring at the picture all throughout dinner. "It seems like somebody purposely removed that person who was in the picture," Sakura said. "And knowing this, you still decided to ask. Why exactly?" Naruto asked. She glared at him as he stared. It was a genuine question that he wanted the answer to. It wasn't meant in any way to try and insult her. He raised his cup up a second later, waiting for her to answer it. "It my husband," Tsunami said. At that, Naruto started coughing, almost choking on the tea. Maya grinned at that, though she didn't laugh. The situation didn't call for it. "And the man called the hero of the city," Tazuna added. Naruto's eyes turned to the boy Inari as he slid back from the table. He watched him head for the door with a raised eyebrow. "Inari, where are you going?" Tsunami called out. He opened the door and slammed it, causing Naruto to narrow his eyes a little. "Rude punk. Father, I told you not to talk about that man in front of Inari," she shouted angrily before rushing off after him. "Saka-chan, this is why you usually don't ask questions," Naruto said. She looked at him, slightly sweating. She might have made a mistake. "What was wrong with Inari-kun?" I asked. She was curious as to why he stormed out. "There seems to be some type of explanation," Kakashi said. "Inari had a father, not related by blood. They were close, like a real father and son." Tazuna paused at that. "Inari would laugh a lot back then." Naruto watched him carefully. The older man started to shake, tears swelling in his eyes. "But Inari has changed since the incident with his father," Tazuna explained. Naruto frowned. He didn't really like sad or depressing stories, especially true ones. He could already tell how this one was going to go. Naruto was absolutely right about it. The recount of events that happened was everything Naruto expected it to be. Touching moments, learning, the passing of ideals, love, and finally death. He felt bad about the puppy most of all. Whatever happened to poor little Pochi? It brought a tear to his eye. He looked around the table looking at everyone's expression. Aya and Sakura looked like they were hit the worst. He sighed as the silence held the room dragged on. Naruto stood up, suddenly drawing everyone's attention to him. He walked ahead towards the door. "Naruto, where are you going?" I asked. "To practice a little," Naruto answered. The moment he reached the door he paused. "Old man, you shouldn't worry too much anymore. You have a good set of ninja protecting you. We will do a good job at it," he said. "We'll make sure you build the bridge, and to do you one better," Naruto said, turning to him, his genjutsu gone. "I will personally take Gatu's life." Surprise spread on each of their faces at his declaration. But his blue eyes showed so much seriousness, so much determination that it was hard to call it a bluff. He turned back to the door, taking a deep breath. "Maybe by the end of this we can show everyone that heroes exists at the very least." He shrugged, not really sure of that. He opened the door as both Maya and Aya rose from their seats. Naruto exited the house, the both of them following right after him. He jumped away and they followed, leaving the room silent. A moment later Sasuke got up before walking out the door. Maya frowned. Naruto lost them twice, but they found him. He was sitting on a tree branch looking at the moon. Aya jumped up to the tree branch first. He wasn't surprised by this, and strange enough he pulled his forehead protector down. "Hey!" Naruto greeted. She nodded at her, sitting at his side. Maya jumped up a second later, taking her spot on the opposite side of Naruto. "So, how do you think we are going to make them believe heroes exists?" Maya asked. Naruto frowned before shrugging. "I couldn't tell you. I don't really believe in heroes myself," Naruto said. Aya looked at him surprised. "Why don't you believe in them?" she asked. Naruto tilted his head at her, frowning a little. "The definition of a hero is somebody who commits an act of remarkable bravery or who has shown an admirable quality such as great courage or the will of self-sacrifice. Everyone has the ability to process such qualities. But in our world, those who choose such actions need to have some type of emotional connection to somebody who they want to protect. There are rarely people who are alive that wants to protect others without some type of motive behind it. I've seen people like this all over the place," Naruto explained. "For me, a hero should be somebody who protects without being enticed by something. And not just the people they care for, but even their enemies and complete strangers. But that is impossible here. Anger raises in those hurt and unhurt. Love brings unimaginable hatred and pain. Sadness grows and alteration, the mind changing to anger at everything. Heroes can't be swayed by emotion, but everyone is one way or another," Naruto explained. They both listened, each of them coming up with their own ideas. His perspective on it was pretty interesting. "Why did you say that back at the house?" Maya asked. Naruto turned his head towards her, humming lightly. "I'm not sure. I guess I wanted to lighten the mood or something," Naruto said, shrugging. "Did you mean what you said?" This time it was Aya who asked. Naruto nodded his head. "I was seriously. I'll kill Gatu and will protect him one way or another," Naruto said. "Do you care for them?" Maya asked. Naruto hummed a little. "I can't really say. The story touched me, yeah. But it's not like I really care on a personal note for them," Naruto said truthfully. "And I don't think it's right for me to say I do, or any of us for that matter. We took the mission, so either way we would have to do this. It's saddening me that the city is like this, and I will help in the only way I know how. And that is to kill Gatu," Naruto said. He pulled his right leg up and wrapped his arms around it. Maya and Aya looked at Naruto before looking at each other. Things were silent for a moment. No one knew exactly what to say next. Naruto frowned at the awkward situation he put himself in before opening his mouth to speak. "I believe heroes exist," Aya said, stopping him. Naruto tilted his head at her with a small smile. "I've seen one a few times already," she said, smiling. "He always came just when I needed him. He helps with even the most trivial of tasks. He even saved my life a few times," she said, staring at Naruto with a light blush. Naruto's face scrunched up in concentration as he turned his head forward. "What's up with that expression, Naruto?" Maya asked. "Well, it seems somebody has been doing my job. When I get back to Konoha, I'm going to have to kick his ass," Naruto said with the utmost seriousness. Both Maya and Aya stared at him before looking at each other. They started laughing hard at him as he turned his head back and forth between the two. He was so confused right now. He tilted his head back as Maya calmed down. She looked back as well, just as their sensei came from behind a tree. Sorry to interrupt, she said, smiling cheerfully. But I need you two now, she said, pointing at her students. Maya shook her head before standing up. She turned as Naruto stood up also. We'll be back later on, so don't stay up too late, Maya said, nodding. Yeah, and I'm going to ask for the guy who stole one of my jobs, Naruto said. Aya covered her mouth as she started to laugh again. Maya, on the other hand, didn't. She laughed loudly, drawing his attention to her. What? He asked, confused yet again. Maya grabbed his wrist, grinning. Let's go. I'll tell you as we go, she said before jumping. Naruto followed her movements, jumping as well. They landed on the ground before they started walking away. Naruto turned back and gave Aya a thumb up with a huge smile. He sent out a chakra wave just in time to get the image of her smile. He turned his head back as Anko turned around. Let's hit the road, she said before leaping forward. Naruto and Maya followed after her quickly. They were a little off in direction they was supposed to be going, but it wouldn't take too long to correct. Aya looked after their retreating bodies with a frown. She wanted to say more, but oh well. Their mission came first for now. She turned and looked at the moon. She was content for now. She laughed again, thinking about his reply. Naruto was so dense at times, that was part of his charm though. In an hour time, Team Anko arrived in the forest area behind their target's house. Anko was kneeling behind a tree with Naruto and Maya kneeling in front of her. She looked at both of them before reaching over and pulling up Naruto's forehead protector. He didn't resist, he figured it would come. He applied a genjutsu beforehand because of this, so he was okay. She looked into the eyes of both of them before breathing out a calming breath. You two stick close to me. We'll locate our target, kill him, and get out, Anko said. Wouldn't it be easier to split up? Naruto asked. Anko and Maya turned to him and stared for a few moments. What? He let out, confused. 3 Jounin, we're not splitting up. For some odd reason I feel like if you were to go alone you would run into all 3 of them, she said, narrowing her eyes at him. Maya nodded, agreeing. Naruto frowned but shrugged, he didn't really care. Remember what I told you two earlier. This is an assassination mission. Treat it as such. Don't be seen, and if you are, eliminate the ones who see you. And don't hesitate, she said, staring more at Maya than Naruto. Naruto blinked, slightly confused when he got back to them earlier. Maya looked down, but he didn't quite understand why. It must have been because of this subject. Maya glanced down, a little, nodding while swallowing. Naruto looked at her also. Even if they were trained to kill, she had yet to actually do so. Naruto killed twice to date. Anko knew of the first one, the second she didn't. Naruto stared at Maya, coming up with a small decision. He would make sure she didn't have to spill blood, at least not until she was ready to. Anko closed her eyes, breathing in deeply. She hated to admit it, but she was a little nervous. She wasn't really the teaching type. This was her first team, and she didn't want anything to happen to them until she at least finished training them. She was torn between having them watch from the sidelines and actually participating. But it's better for them to experience it firsthand. That's how she was taught, and it would be best for them as well. Especially Naruto, maybe this will at least stop him from acting reckless. She would take care of the Jounin, she would let them take care of the small fries. As long as they followed orders, it would be an easy mission. Let's begin, Anko said, opening her eyes. As long as she was protecting them, what was the worst that could happen? Later on she would regret that thought.